Ladies and gentlemen, we are here with the Console Gaming Summer Series, round number 1. Now, this is going to be the European set of teams here. We have 40 teams that are going to battle their way into a top pool of 20 players that we're going to go ahead and see compete on the 28th. Now, of course, my name is Dragonite. I am here with Console Gaming LG, the Console Gaming League, and I am joined by my friend and co-compatriot, Mr. Nate Dogg, Tenacious Nacho. Nate, how you doing? And it looks like Nate is just taking just a second to get that audio set up there. I think we may have a slight technical difficulty there. But one of the things I am excited about, of course, on the hands of the Summer Series is this is one of the first competitions that we're seeing with a bunch of different teams that are going to be on Season 10. So I think one of the most impactful things that we're going to see is a lot of the POI changes and things like that. I think there's a lot going on there.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you. We've got some new guns, new spots on the map. I mean, there's going to be new spots to loot. Maybe these players aren't going to know, like what's going on with the new spots. I feel like the players who've put in the more hours on these changes, they're going to have the better opportunities to get those dubs, get those points, get those kills.
I agree with that entirely. And it's interesting to see European. So this is one of the things, guys, we were talking about beforehand, before we were getting into some of these games here, is that European Apex is so different from some of the NA Apex, where you see a lot of inting, you'll see like a lot of octanes, things like that. I think we'll, of course, see some bleed over, but it is interesting to see some teams like the number 1 Euro team, Scars, use a Loba as opposed to a fast rotation character. I believe their comp right now is Valkyrie, Loba, Gibraltar. And so you can see some kind of counter NA meta. And I think it lends a lot because it's so cool to see different ecosystems play in different ways. And I mean, that's never set in stone, right? So it's not necessarily like we're going to see copy and paste European teams, but it is cool to see that difference across both of the scopes of Apex. But on your screen here, you do have the point breakdown. So this is what your scorers are going to be giving you here. So, of course, your first place giving you a 12 point and a kill as well, giving you a point. So there is a benefit both to placement and to in-game points in terms of kills as well. That is a little different from an ALGS format where you will sometimes get a point multiplier, depending on whether it's ALGS or GLL or an EMEA or something like that. But this is a very tried and true formula. And so we see a lot of teams and a lot of tournament operators use this format. So this should be something that a lot of competitors and viewers alike both know. But Nate, I did want to ask you, because I know, of course, you've been playing and competing in Apex as well. Season 10 brought a lot of changes. And we were just talking before we got into the cast here about some of the changes like weapons. Go ahead and tell me a little bit about what you're feeling. I know you were talking about the Rampage a little bit. Do you think we're going to get to see any of that enter gameplay today?
I think we're going to see an absolute ton of Rampage gameplay. I was running around with it the other night, and I finally figured out that if you pump the trigger, it shoots faster, and there's no wind up time on it, and then you can charge it up with the thermite, and it's just, I feel like it's a really consistent mid range like fighter. Kind of like in place of an AR, right? I feel like usually you would have those ARs for those mid to long range fights, but I feel like the Rampage handles them like so well, and it's got that bigger magazine as well, so you can pump out more shots without having to reload. I think that's like going to be like one of the main guns we're going to see today. I think we're going to see a lot of Rampage gameplay, and I also think we're going to see a lot of Seer.
Yeah. So that's a tough one because as a caster and an analyst and as an observer, I adore seeing Seer in gameplay, right? We get those nifty health bars that pop up. We can see from a player standpoint, like what player they're going to engage on. Oh man, that Gibraltar that I hit for purple in the head, that's not actually a purple Gibraltar. Little did he know that I can see that he's got a blue shield. So I maybe just hit a headshot and thought he was purple. Well, now I know I can go in and fight that guy. From a player standpoint, as a master, if you can see my health bar, I am livid all the time. That's such a frustrating thing to have to fight against. And Seer quickly is becoming a necessary evil to me, very much like a Gibraltar or like a character like a Wraith and Octane or something that can give you mobility, because you kind of need that rotating cast of 3 abilities there. Your defensiveness from Gibraltar, usually a scan info character from a Bloodhound or a Seer, and then some kind of rotation from a Wraith, Octane, and non-traditionally a Pathfinder anymore. Unfortunately, they wrecked my Samsung fridge boy and he's gone, but we do rest in peace Pathfinder. But I think Seer is going to be great from a viewer standpoint, and I think these players aren't necessarily going to love it.
Yeah, I certainly wasn't too happy with the Seer update. I think it's a lot of information that the other players are given. And like you said, it's kind of a team staple. You need that seer. If I can see your health, I know if I can push. Not only do you see their health, but you get to see what they're doing. So I can, oh, they're shielding and they're super cracked. I can rush in. Like, yeah, I just think it's a whole lot of information, and I think you're nerfing yourself to not have a seer on your team. Um, Bloodhound has kind of been pushed to the side with this seer update, so it's going to be interesting to see, like, just I think team comps are going to be a little more bit different than we've previously seen before.
I think so too, and it's going to be interesting to see because there haven't been any pro tier tournaments really. We've had like the esports arena, we've had a couple like $500 pots come up, and the summer series is going to be a really great opportunity for people to get their first look on whether or not Seer is going to be making it into high tier AM comp or not, because there may be players that look at Bloodhound and go, man, I've got literally 20,000 kills on Bloodhound. This is my main. I'm uncomfortable swapping, even though there's a character with relative utility. This is going to be that point where you could see a player that performed really well on one character be forced to swap. Like we see, for instance, on TSM, Reps was a Bloodhound main before, and a Wraith player before he was put onto Gibby because Snipedown was a Bloodhound and Hal was a Wraith and now an Octane. There are going to be players that are forced into certain character metas, and we always look at like those top 20 pro teams. The AMs trying to make it all the way up there are going to face the same struggles, and it may even be harder because AM teams are often less consistent. So that seer coming into play and people being forced not only to have one on the team, but maybe that altering your existing team comp can be another factor in how hard this game is going to be. On top of that, one of the other things that is going to be wildly different is going to be a couple of the POI changes. So Sorting Factory is now gone and is now Lava Siphon. And Sorting Factory does maintain, or Lava Siphon now maintains its beacon pretty traditionally. There's a pretty high chance there's a beacon there, as well as Landslide being another massive POI, what was once Train Yard. So that's going to be very important as well. The teams pretty traditionally do call out their landing POIs. For the team that was landing Train Yard, they are in a bad spot. You got 4 loot bins and a dream.
Yeah, I mean, you have to work a little bit harder. You have to really hope that you're going to get good gear if you land there. And like you said, there's not just a whole lot of loot opportunity when you do land there, and you're kind of fighting at like a map disadvantage, and you have to move, and you're just like giving yourself a lot of problems. Where I think if you land somewhere else, you might be setting yourself up for more success.
Absolutely. And I mean, you're coupled, Landslide is between Staging, Countdown, and Lava Fisher, which are kind of a triangle of death right there because the loot density in those areas is pretty high. Countdown, with of course having the button strat where you can drop, hit the landing beat, or hit the button and open the rocket launch pad. Usually there's a purple, 2 blues, and some kind of auto weapon in there. I mean, if your team is able to get in and out, pretty quickly and efficiently, you've got a lot of high tier loot as long as you can survive and make it through that little gauntlet right there. And so it's a pretty natural rotation for teams to want to push through or around Landslide towards Fragment. Of course, because a lot of teams will drop hot into Fragment, and you're going to be chasing your kills if you're in anywhere mid elo. So that's going to be a pretty consistent rotation. And if you put yourself in the middle of that, you're setting yourself up for failure right there. I think the other weird POI that we should probably talk about though, is going to be the Climatizer, which did replace an area next to Survey Camp, if I'm not mistaken. And that one has had that Lava Fisher open up directly through it. So we see that Lava Fisher next to Epicenter, we see some bridges. The Climatizer has now given us almost a Lava Siphon amount of loot density, if you will. There's usually traditionally a crafter. Sometimes there's a beacon there as well. And guys, it does look like we are getting lobbied up here. Now, there were a couple teams that Nate and I had peeked at earlier, and there's a lot of AM teams now. So keep in mind, this isn't a pro tier. This is an opportunity for all of the AMs to try to make that name because we all want to bridge that gap into being in the pro tier. So one of the teams I am looking at is Aim Assist Suns. That was going to be the first ranked team on Group A. Aim Assist Suns has my interest peaked a little bit, considering that we definitely have maybe a little bit of nod to some of the Aim Assist boys that are now on G2. So that's Resulta, Gentrifying, and Designful. So curious to see that here. Looks like we might have a spectator bug as well. 13 squads in the lobby, 38 players left. That may be a momentary bug there, and we will wait for production to confirm if that is just a spectator bug. Right, and we have seen quite a few teams drop off. It looks like we're not seeing too many contest fragment here, so we are going to be seeing those players drop down. We are going to be looking towards the climatizer as well. We do see that being the hot zone, and we did see quite a few players drop out of the lobby right off of the rip there. We did just get a confirmation from production here that the lobby has been pared down. Unfortunately, a lot of teams did not want to fulfill the obligation of correctly disclosing their rosters, so unfortunately, they were not allowed to play. So for those of you in the chat that do want to be entering things here in the future, you absolutely need to make sure you are not just a good player, but you are up to date on the rules, because console gaming has a pretty strict rule set because they believe in high tier production and enforcement of the rules for fairness for players. So that is going to be important. But Nate, look at what we have in the hands of Punisher right here. This is season 10 hell right here. You've got an EVA 8, a Rampage, and a Seer. That is a sign of things to come.
Well, I mean, you got to cover all your bases, and right now you've got close range covered, you've got long and mid range covered, and you know you're going to be able to tell if players are sneaking up on you. That heartbeat monitor is kind of like so necessary, especially in season 10. So, I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of liking this. Everybody's just taking their time and getting some loot. You know, my strategy would be kind of to land away from everybody and try to get kitted, and you know, those early scraps are so high risk, high reward that you know it's. If you can take out that squad early, and it does look like we have some squads going down.
Wow, that is going to be in Lava Fissure there, and it looks like that was a very quick wipe, and we see a white death box there, which indicates to us that that player didn't even have blue armor, let alone a blue mag or a blue item there, so that must have been a very aggressive push there right off the rip. I do love this Gibraltar skin we do see on this player right here, a nod to TSM reps, I think, whether intentional or not. That is traditionally the skin that we see reps with if it's not the Frankenstein, and that is a team very close to my heart. But very, very quick win. I think we're probably right on the singular minute mark here to see them close out. But Amos's Sons was the team I did want to look at. So Patsy is a Bloodhound here, and he is going to be kind of counter meta in this one. We talked a lot about how Bloodhound wasn't really going to be replacing Seer, or rather that Seer was going to replace Bloodhound. So curious to see how the Amos's boys move through that, because if you're comfortable on a Legend, that Legend can play better for you than a Legend you're not. But on the other hand, you may be doing yourself a disservice by not using one. So that could definitely come into effect later.
Well, with the Bloodhound ult, you get that opportunity to be extra aggressive and to like really push in. So I don't know, Seer doesn't quite have that aggressive. He has all the information, but he doesn't have that sense of like, you know, I can push aggressively with like the Bloodhound ult. It's so powerful. That extra movement speed gives you the opportunity to really like soar out onto the other team. So yeah, it is going to be interesting. I'm very excited to see if the Bloodhound can hold up in this current meta.
Me too, and this is always different too, because you'll see some things, and Nate, I know for those of you joining us in the chat here, Nate's a very high tier competitor in Halo. He plays a lot of Apex and competes in that as well. But one of the things that we always have to note is that there are players that kind of, I'm going to say throw, and I don't mean to say throw, but there are players that will play counter meta, and sometimes you just genuinely don't know. And a tournament format is a great way for you to learn, maybe I should do this, maybe I shouldn't. On the team that's receiving maybe a weird push or an unorthodox challenge from a Legend that wouldn't necessarily be in this meta, that is going to be maybe enough to throw you off. So that Bloodhound could actually be a benefit, because someone's not expecting a Bloodhound speed buff. They're expecting a Seer at that point. It did look like we saw a player drop off one of those teams there. Again, not a spectator bug. We did see from the production here in our work chat that was not a spectator issue. So that player, that is going to be a team of 2, unfortunately. I'm watching on Team Vittori here. I believe we saw 3 different gold items. You got a gold body armor, the gold helmet, and the gold backpack. So pretty traditionally here, we'll see the Gibraltar run the gold helmet and the gold backpack, of course, for the bubble and the Gibraltar ult coming in quickly, and then we will want to be able to see that res. It looks like Snifty is going to be running, though, the gold helmet as well. Not entirely sure if his whole team, if they had 2 helmets. Octane doesn't traditionally need that, but we're going to be swapping onto the SBC Chicken roster, and they are mid gunfight here. Gibraltar is entirely broken. Octane already down, and the grenades entering the bubble. We see what I believe is that may be a Wraith there, just sitting on the outside of the bubble here, doing the shotgun pumps, of course. Superior not able to heal as well. Massive shots are coming in, and Gibraltar is chunked for health. That's 1 player down on both sides. No Way is absolutely broken as well. He's going to fall. We do see the Wraith able to quickly win that fight there. The Gibraltar coming back in to try to shield cover while they do res their Seer here. So that team was actually already a man down and was able to turn that around.
Yeah, I was wondering what was going to happen. You know, it almost looked like, you know, at first when the fight started, you know, Vittori's shields were broken, and the Octane was knocked. So I thought it was easy, and then they started putting that damage back out, and it really looked like they were about to turn that fight around for a second. But they were able to close out the fight and get those knocks.
I would have liked to see from the both of the Gibbies on the team. We obviously, of course, saw that from mostly one POV there. But again, shout out to our incredible observers for being able to swap us right into immediate gunfire so we can keep the action hot. We only had about half the teams in the lobby, and we've seen the same amount of gunplay and gunfire that you would see in a true ALGS circuit here. So that is an absolute shout out to production. Case in point, we are in another gunfight here. Now, this time, this is going to be a countdown on the right-hand side of the bridge. That Gibby bubble is coming into play, and that's what I wanted to see from our previous fight. A bubble on a bubble, because that is going to let them engage with shotguns. We see all 6 players in the meta. The Gibraltar ult is going to be coming out. One Gibby is trapped outside of his dome. The fire is going to hit him, and he is now trapped either in his ult or in the opponent's ult. Both bubbles down. We did hear a clear. The bell did ring. 2 fighters enter. Only 1 leaves. We do see another player down in the bin here. It looks like he is going to be shielding. We see another downed player, so the fight not entirely concluded. One player may be ratting to try to get some extra POI, or some extra placement points there, rather, in that POI. But fantastic and efficient fighting from that Gibraltar. But that bubble on bubble fight is something that I definitely want to see more from players on, because a Gibraltar bubble doesn't have walls, so you can throw your bubble into their bubble so you don't walk up completely open to receiving gunfire.
Well, I feel like they popped the bubbles a little early in that fight. Obviously, they were clashing and the bubbles needed to be thrown out, but you saw that airstrike come in right after, and the bubbles were already gone, so you either have to run or hope for the best, because I don't know, just we saw everything explode right there. The Seers, both teams had Seers pop, and they were scrapping.
Now, that's an interesting one that I am curious to see. I didn't get the chance to look when we were in the pregame lobby here. I don't believe there was anything more than 1 crypto, if I'm not mistaken here. And of course, for those of you that may be new to Apex or watching from a casual standpoint and just excited to see the CGL production here, crypto does have an ability to pop most traps or on-map fixtures. So if you're fighting a Caustic, if you're fighting a Gibraltar, and you hit your crypto ult, that EMP will destroy those on-map variables. So crypto can be a really important factor, especially late game, if you can save him all the way there. The issue for that is going to be that you're going to see crypto replaced again by a Bloodhound or a Seer in this current meta. We do see them looking at a group of players coming out of the epicenter, pushing towards East Frag here. We have another one going towards the Broken Building, Snipe Down's landing spot, pretty traditionally in the ALGS format as well. So a lot of teams, of course, being forced to rotate into some pretty compromising spots. But we do see your Revtane, Nate. Tell me about the Revenant that's coming into gameplay here.
All right, so Revenant can, if you're new to Apex, Revenant can climb higher than all the other characters, so you can use that to get some great height advantage onto your opponents. And you also have a silence with Revenant and a death totem that lets you run in basically for free. And if you get taken out, you just spawn right back at the place you put the totem, and you have only a little bit less health. So it's just, you can sneak up on players. He also crouches faster, so you can crouch strafe a little bit, I believe his crouch walk is actually faster than his normal movement speed, not sprinting. So it's just interesting to see him. He's kind of like a counter meta pick. So very interesting to see a Revenant in this current tournament.
And it does look like that team that I was looking for, the Aim Assist team, the name after the previous G2 roster, I think that was a little bit of a nod to them, is not going to make it through. So that's going to be Potsy the Bloodhound and his team not making it through this engagement. But case in point, this is Lava Siphon at its absolute finest. Here comes what party? It was a party of 2, and now it's a party of 3. We have a full health roster here from No Way FKD. Is going to be pushing in towards the team with the Lava Siphon. The Gibraltar ult's going to come out, but unfortunately, it's not going to be doing too much, as this team is able to just move into some versatile height here. They were able to take that zip line up, and they are just going to be defending. We do see that Gibraltar with a kitted Volt here and a Mastiff as well. Now we see a pretty good gap here, rather, between some mouse and keyboard players and controllers, which is pretty interesting, and you do see that a lot in other formats as well. There's not too many full controller rosters anymore outside of like a G2. You will see, of course, like a TSM, you'll see a Scars, mainly mouse and keyboard. So having a diverse roster like this is definitely very interesting.
I'm kind of surprised to see this strat. It looks like Team No Way is posted up, but it looks like only one of the players has the optic to be taking poke shots at other players. So they're going to have to move off of this. They're kind of trapped up here, and I think they're going to either have to move for circle eventually or to push these players, because they're not really doing very much other than just staying alive. We're not putting out too much damage right now. They're staying alive, but they are still so close to the action. It's going to be interesting to see if they get pushed or if they're going to be the aggressors.
And it looks like these two teams, I affectionately refer to that building on the right-hand side where we see Arc over there. I affectionately refer to that as the command center in the center of Lava Siphon here, because that is actually where I drop personally in ranked. I like to drop Lava Siphon here. I send one player into the building and two into the center area on that balcony right there. And so Shadowcat and Salem are going to be looking towards these players at the top here. And of course, this is kind of what you're going to see traditionally in a lot of higher tier Apex. Now that we've broken that top 10, everybody has some kills. Everybody's looking for point multipliers, right? You're waiting for some of those placement points as well, because we had that lovely breakdown courtesy, of course, of console gaming at the beginning of that, kind of illustrating all the way up to 12 extra points for first place. So the same value as 12 kills, the same value as more than a sixth of the killing, a sixth of the lobby. Is going to be given to you if you're able to get that first place. So these teams definitely doing their best to kind of eke out that extra bit of points. But once again, we now have 4 of the 9 remaining teams in Lava Siphon here. So of course, we've got the team in the center, one in the command center. We did see that one rotate a little bit closer to Tree on the upper height, and we now see Team Yorklapt in the zone. Nate, you were talking to us about a lot of rotations here. This is going to be really close to them getting hit by some gas. It looks like Blue Wizard definitely has a pretty red FOV here. That's pretty interesting. Maybe a colorblind setting there, but we do see an entire roster of controller players too. Nate, do you think that's going to make any impact as we move forward here? I mean, the Rollers are known for close combat gunfights.
I think the controller players have the edge up close, but in terms of long range and mid range gunfighting, I think the mouse and keyboard has the definite advantage. You're also talking about rotational movement, and I wanted to point that, you know, kind of my general philosophy in a lot of these battle royale type of games, you know, Apex or Fortnite, my strategy is usually to try to get to the backside of the circle, and that allows you to be flanked. You never have to worry about a player coming up behind you. As you see these players right here on Team Yorklapt, they're kind of hugging the edge of circle, moving towards the back, and that's like allowing them to not be flanked. You know, they have only 2 real lanes and angles that they have to be mindful of when you are backs to the circle, because you can't get flanked. So I, you know, kind of as we're talking about it, it's happening in real time, but it does look like they are pinned on that back edge of the circle by Team Vittori here, who looks to have the better loot. They have the better map positioning. So, you know, they've definitely got their work cut out for them as they are starting to push in.
And we did see that Gibraltar get entered into flesh there as he dropped into that house below the tree. Now that's going to be the Seer Q. Very, very, very important there, as that was going to stop that Gibraltar who was popping a shield bat. So if another third party is going to come in, they may not necessarily give Vittori the opportunity to get that kill, but it may get the opposing team killed here. Now we might see this door. He might try to open this door with a quick swap. We might see the grenade go directly in there, but we're going to swap back over to an overview of these teams that are going to be in Lava Fissure as well. So that is going to definitely be important to take a view there. The Arcstar is going to be going off. It looks like they are going to be trapped inside this base. The frag grenade is going to be coming in. A little bit of flame grenade damage from the outside, but both teams are narrowly surviving this as they throw grenades towards the door. The good news is it looks like Rainbow Ape is going to have a considerable amount of shields attached to him as well. And we are going to see the Bloodhound ult. So Nate, this is one of the things we weren't necessarily sure about, if the Bloodhound ult was going to be as impactful as the Seer ult, but we're going to get to see that in real time.
Well, you know, Bloodhound popped the ult, but they are trapped inside of this building. The other team has like all the exits covered, and they're stuck in that building, and they're gonna have to scrap their way out. You know, that's kind of shutting down the Bloodhound ult because he doesn't have the room to push. It looks like we're getting third-partied by another squad here.
Looks like that Bloodhound is going to be just trying to run out of that engagement. We're going for the quick thirst on the Gibraltar, who got the Octane jump pad out. It looks like he's just trying to make this as difficult as possible. We saw a little bit of leapfrogging out of the Gibraltar right there. For those of you that play ranked, I have definitely been bamboozled by that little bit of leapfrogging. That is currently a bug. I believe if a player is down to doing an action, they are currently able to also commit to other movement-based actions. So you can actually jump and move at regular walking speed when you're down. It looks like that Octane down below is going to be trapped in that cart between a couple teams. That Wraith is wisely going to portal down there, so I really like this challenge because she's going to go down, drop her portal into another safe area, potentially try to challenge this, and her teammates have height, so if they need to send another player down, they can, but Wraith can otherwise effectively fight an easy 1v1 here and have her team just support them if she's able to push that Octane out of the cart so they can get some free easy KP. So not only is he now pretty much flashbanged and low on health, they were able to do exactly what I was referring to there and get a quick mob on that player.
You know, that's 3 points right there. That player was completely trapped in that canister, and like you said, they had height advantage. The Wraith got to push him for free, and then they pinched that player patiently and beautifully, and they had all the time in the world to do so. As it doesn't look like that gunfire drew any other squads to come look for that action. 8 squads left in this current match. Team Vittori still has the best loot that I've seen so far, as that R301 is looking quite kitted.
We could check out here. Let's go over here.
Nate, here's one of those teams rotating kind of exactly where you had referred to. They kind of put their backs to the wall there. And that's something that I want to note because, of course, we're in game 1 of 6. So we have quite a few games ahead of us, which is going to be absolutely fantastic. But this is something important to note because people watch so many different types of Apex, right? We've got the solo queue goats, we've got Shiv, we've got Diff Q, we've got Zippeth on the solo queue goats, of course, playing in the Eastern European stuff. And those teams, we've got Scars again, the Loba Valkyrie Gibraltar team that just most recently won their hand at the national championships of the ALGS. Now, it's interesting to see the way European teams play again versus the way an NA team will play, because a lot of NA teams want to play ring edge, try to gate people outside of the zone, and then you do want to focus on some teams coming into the center in the late game. I do often see European teams try to push in and hold the zone a lot earlier because they just want to make sure that they have their rotation. Now, we are going to see an Octane pad come in. It looks like this may be a 3-team skirmish. They may not be aware of that team above them to the left-hand side. Now, often pretty traditionally in any kind of shooter, especially like an arena shooter, you don't want to give up height. But in a game with characters like Gibraltar, like Bangalore, where you have a lot of top-down damage, having like a ledge above you can actually be beneficial here. Now, we're going to see 4 of the last 6 teams rotate into this series of fights. The Seer Q did come into play, and we see incoming damage from all 4 teams here. This looks like it could absolutely be one hell of a fight.
So you were talking about that height advantage, and that height advantage is so critical because not only there's bullet drops, so the bullet drop is easier to compensate for when you have high ground, and also, like you said, that ledge, you can just back up a little bit and you have cover. You get to choose when to poke, but if you're on the team on the bottom, you don't really have anywhere you can go other than hugging the cliff. But Team No Way has been posted up here for quite some time now. Like I think they're just trying to wait it out. You know, they've been up here for most of the match. As I'm saying it, it's time to go finally. It looks like they are going to be aggressively pushing this team on the low ground.
You know, and I do want to note something here that I did want to confirm, and I did get a confirmation from production here earlier, that there is a little bit of a spectator bug on some of these players, like this Seer here, who is going to be on controller, and it looks like Season 10 may be giving some kind of input bug from a spectator mode there. So all of these players are going to be on controller. So we're going to see a lot more strength in close combat gunfights, and actually, if we see some strength in a long-distance gunfight, that's going to point out to me that that player is just so overtly skilled. Now, the Revenant Ultimate is coming into play. This team is stuck in the Caravan here. Salem able to get red shields. He is going to be fighting the opposing Gibraltar right there, and it doesn't look like that Gibraltar is going to be going down. So we do see the res on that Wraith. We see the full team reset, but they were able to get that knock there, which is going to be very important. I would love to see a couple well-placed grenades or a timeout from the Revenant. A Seer Q could have come back into play and stopped that res as well. But there comes the grenade, case in point, and I believe that was able to flesh 2 separate players in the truck.
You know, this is not looking good if you're NEL Ravens right now. You're completely turtled and trapped, and there are all these teams that are hearing this gunfighting, and like their grenades are pouring in. The Wraith wisely portaling out of there, but it doesn't look like there's really anywhere to go. Immediately gets knocked for pushing out, but I feel like in this moment you have to try to make something happen because they're just trapped with their backs against the wall, and you know, the proverbial saying, fish in a barrel, and that's exactly what they are right now, is they just cannot dodge this damage and get their health back up.
Yeah, and this is an absolutely difficult fight that we have right here. We're going to be on the board for Stank, excuse me, and he is going to be our Gibraltar. Now, that Gibraltar cooldown was sitting right there at about 25 seconds now. We're going to see a team right under the overhang on the balcony right outside of this lava siphon POI here, and that's going to be a player down. Now, Nate, of course, you are aware, but for the viewers in the chat, you're going to see people often want to wait for someone to get a res so you can get the knock there, and so you can claim that for your own kill points there. At this time, I would suggest for these players to go for the thirst here, because even if you're not getting the point, you can concede 1 point to an opposing team if you're going to be able to get an entire group of placing, because all these players at top 5 are going to be able to move forward with a significant point multiplier comparatively to just that 1 kill. Now, the Gibby ult is going to be coming in. That's going to be hitting No Way France. Now, this is a very tough fight here because a second Gibraltar ult was called, so they called their own dome, and Franz, who thought he was going to be safe, was forced to jump into that bubble because that was from an opposing team there. Now, we are going to be seeing that GRG team posting up around the back end of this bend, excuse me, and we do see Stank pushing up from below as well. His teammate Salem and Shadowcat watching as we have 2 teams trapped outside the zone. This should be a very, very easy fight for Salem and company.
I mean, all these squads, I mean, the ring is getting smaller and smaller. Like, I think we're going to see a lot of squads go down in just a couple moments here, as it does look like the end of the game is coming closer and closer. There's not that much room for these teams to go anymore. We have a team down in the bottom. You know, they're kind of trapped in that house. Everybody has height advantage on them. You're going to have to hope for some circle luck here. Actually, as they're starting to move out right now, as it looks like they're going to push up this cliff and try to get that third party onto the team trap with their backs against the circle.
That was a big kill steal too. We saw Sven's able to steal that player, that Sinatra player that was behind that blue crate and dropped down towards that rocky outcropping down there. He was actually able to snag that kill, so netting him an extra little bit of points there. But that's going to be Bozo, FaZe Devil, who's going to be able to get the grenade kill onto No Way Zapier. And so that's going to be important as well, because that player is going to be stunned. Now we do see what looks to be this Wraith here, who is just going to be trying to medkit here. We see her behind the crate, and it looks like these other teams may give that player a little bit of breath here, because that Wraith's not going to be doing too much to you. Of course, they're going to be a little bit of an antagonist, and you do want to wipe that player to get the placement points there. So they're going to be looking towards that other team. Then they're going to bubble on the Wraith to get the quick kill exactly like this. They're going to 3-man stack on this Wraith, take little to no damage. She is going to queue out and be obnoxious, and this may be very difficult. She may also feed the opposing team some points here. She dropped right under. And here comes that Revenant Octane ultimate that is going to be very, very Season 9-ish. We saw Revtane employed constantly in Season 9. It looks like it's making a little bit of a comeback.
That Wraith has managed to stay alive. It doesn't look like they have any health, as they're not really, we just got full shields, but they are so low on health. You're going to have to hope for a knock or a med kit. That there's not a whole lot you can do, but with only 2 squads remaining, you might be able to get that last kill.
Wow. That is really, really good ratting from this Wraith. Now, at this point, this Wraith probably isn't going to be capable of winning this 1v1 gunfight. 25 Esports is going to walk away. You're game #1 champion, but let's talk about that, Nate. The ability for that Wraith to time that Q, especially with the time that it takes to queue out of those gunfights, that was very, very well placed, and that's going to be probably a significant 2, 3, 4 point gap between that third and second place. So had their team been able to net some kills, as well as having that point multiplier or that point buff for getting that second place, that was a good play. It's almost like you're already losing, lose less.
Exactly.
And I thought that Wraith fought very efficiently.
Exactly. And I mean, that other team really should have pushed for that Wraith to try to get that kill, but they knew that other team was on the bridge and like gonna push in for that third party. So it's kind of like a catch-22. You want to get the points. You want to make sure you secure second, but securing that second place would have put them at a disadvantage, because as soon as they started fighting, they pushed in and got all the kills and wiped them. And that, just like you said, that Wraith ratted and stayed alive and got those extra points just by queuing out of there and playing the life as long as possible. So really heads up play by that Wraith player there.
Yeah, I'm just unbelievably impressed. And of course, we have to give a nod again. That was definitely an exciting and well played final series of fights there from 25 Esports. Of course, I really liked their positioning on the bridge. The Rev Octane ult, we don't see that employed so much in Season 10. So although those of us absolutely resented it in Season 9, those of you that are my rankers that are in chat that are effectively anything above a gold have been on the bad end of a Revtane ult before. So frustrating to see, but it was employed very, very well. Almost have to give a tongue-in-cheek thumbs up to that 25 Esports team for making it through, and then a nod to that Wraith as well. But guys, we are going to transition to a quick break. These players are going to get an opportunity to get some water. We're going to have some nifty replays for you guys. But before we go, of course, we have to give a thanks. I have to, of course, for Nate for joining me today, for Orion Productions for putting on the back end support here, and of course, our Console Gaming League for hosting the Summer Series, as well as one of their sponsors, New.gg. Now, for those of you that want to support console gaming, you are able to find some wink, wink, pretty nifty threads. Excuse me, I'm looking in my thing and it's on the other shoulder, but New makes a wonderful series of console gaming merch as well that they have lovely provided for me. So Nate and I will be right back with you. Orion will be back with some beautiful replays and some quick production, and we will be back within just 5 minutes. Don't you lovely folks go anywhere. And ladies and gentlemen, we said it would be a brief 5 minutes. In a brief 5 minutes, it was featured with some highlights from the previous game. Again, a nod to our wonderful Orion Productions team. Of course, I am going to be your chair #1. I'm Dragonite, and I am joined by Nate Dowg, who is going to be our chair #2. That's also Mr. Tenacious Nacho, and we're here, of course, with the Console Gaming League Summer Series. So what we had previously seen was 25 Esports take a pretty convincing, I don't even think a single downed victory. I don't even think they were forced to take a res at any point in there. And this is going to be your point breakdown there. A nice little second place from No Way FKB with that solo Wraith we had, Nate, kind of eking her way into that top there. But what is this leaderboard telling you? What does this say about the teams that are playing?
To me, this screams that 25 Esports knows how to shoot. It says they know how to get good loot. They know how to shoot. They know how to scrap. They played the circle very well. Even at the end, we kind of saw No Way FKB and NEL Ravens kind of scrapping. We saw that Wraith queue out with like a sliver of HP. And 25 Esports actually collapsed and was able to get the final knocks. because the other team was distracted with that wraith, and they took some damage fighting that wraith, and it really allowed them to kind of swoop in. But we also saw the NEL Ravens kind of post up and kind of play high ground. They didn't really have the weapons for long range engagements. Nobody was running snipers. We had, I think, one player with an R301 kind of taking pot shots at people, but they just kind of posted up on some high ground and kind of let the game play out and let the circle play out. They did get some kills throughout the match, but I think they were just playing smart. No need for us to go in there and get and fight and risk deaths. And let's let somebody else do our dirty work and try to capitalize on all that damage. So I think we definitely have to be watching out for 25 Esports here, because they've certainly put on a show for the first match.
Yeah, I mean, to be in first place, already pat yourself on the shoulder. To be in first place and have literally 1 point off of double the second place team. Dude, I'm not even looking in the rearview mirror anymore. I'm just changing lanes without looking. Like, it's happening. I'm already feeling pretty good. Now, we could see a little bit of attitude come into play here. Now, that's a chance, because I don't know 25 Esports personally. We could see some kind of 50-50 drop. And that could be very dangerous. Even though there's less teams in the lobby than traditionally here, a team may or may not get a lucky landing, right? I mean, if you land at a high tier POI and you fight a team, even if you have good guns and it's 3 purples versus you with 3 whites, odds are you're probably not walking out of that one unscathed, at least without a thirst or a down or something like that. So I'm hoping to see 25 Esports stay consistently strong and capable like they were in that previous matchup. Now, of course, I'm curious again to see, I don't know what their landing POI was. I don't know if production's able to tell us what that landing POI would have been, but I am hoping to watch a team maybe skirmish off drop. You sometimes see in ranked or in ALGS format, you'll see 2 players, or 2 teams rather, skirmish on either end of Lava Siphon, because that's a pretty highly contested area with a lot of loot density. Same thing, it's kind of an echo to Fragment between East and West. So you might see a little bit of fights off the drop there, but I'm pretty eager to see, now that some of these teams may have shaken off the nerves, some of them may be more nervous than before. I believe every team excluding 2 below 6th place did not have a single kill point. They just got shot at. You're fishing a barrel, man. That's a rough start.
Well, like you said, I mean, there's a little bit of RNG when it comes to Apex. You could drop and there could be a squad on you. They get the gun first, or you get a pistol and a Mozam, and you just got nothing. They have range, they have guns. So we could see 25 Esports, drop and get wiped immediately, and then they won't be able to get any points at all. But having double the points is definitely a good little padding. But I mean, there are still 5 more games to go. It's going to be interesting. I don't quite see them getting knocked off of a rip based on that performance last game, but it could happen. And not to discredit any of the players here, but a little bit of RNG is kind of scary, especially competitively.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's the name of the game with Apex, right? I mean, you could be the #1 world championship team, and oh man, you got 2 pistols, and Tommy No Thumbs happened to get 4 Spitfires. And unfortunately, no matter what, there's a certain amount of lack of ability to cope against that. Now, I mean, a pretty skilled player is going to be able to use a lot of versatile weapons, right? You see a lot of the high tier players play on purpose with different loadouts each game, as opposed to kind of rotating the same amount of weapons and utilities because they want to make sure their ability is versatile. On the other hand, of course, these are high tier AMs. These are people looking to make that jump from the amateur to that pro scene, right? That's why we're all competing here. And some of those players may not necessarily have that all under the belt yet. So that on top of the RNG factor, that could absolutely come into play.
Absolutely. I mean, I myself am a little guilty. I'm a Hemlock guy through and through. I come from Halo. The Hemlock, it shoots like the battle rifle from Halo. Tried and true for me. But like you said, I struggle with certain weapons. And sometimes you don't get to choose what weapons you are allowed. I mean, unless you have a Loba, and even then you might not get a gun that you want to use. So you really do have to be quite versatile. There's a lot of guns in this game, and there's a lot of different play styles that revolve around those weapons. Like you could see players taking long range snipe shots. I don't think that's going to be the case. I feel like it would almost allow other teams to capitalize on your damage. But yeah, I mean, versatility in this game is the name of the game. You've got shotguns, you've got SMGs, you've got ARs, you've got heavy machine guns. All of these weapons are going to enable different playstyles, especially with different champions. You've got just so much variability in team comp, and with all the abilities, there are a lot of things that could happen with this game, and I think that's what makes it so exciting.
I think so too, and I've always thought that because Apex in a competitive circuit, you're either rocking the current season of World's Edge or you're rocking the season 6, which we kind of traditionally see in ALGS and GLL. It's wild to me that it doesn't become stale. And there's always a new storyline, and there's always this player had this go on, or this special weapon, or this loot luck, or something like that. And I think that's what is a testament to Apex feeling fresh, on top of the fact that you can see the gun skill in this game, and that's very very apparent. I think specifically though, to refer to some of the weapon utility you were talking about each gun having its place, you can even see character based weapons, right? You like to usually see a Gibraltar with a shotgun like a Mastiff traditionally, as opposed to an Eva, because the Mastiff has bigger chunk damage, even though the Eva has a faster fire rate. There was that like season 8, season 9 where people wanted to give everybody the Eva prior to its nerf. You will have seen a lot of teams both in Europe and in NA adopt Gibraltar with a Mastiff again, because it's a little bit chunkier. On the other hand, you can also see Gibraltar run with a sniper rifle. You'll see Octane often with a lot of close combat guns, because you can get in and out of conflict very quickly, usually an R9, R301. So again, not only do you have character dependent meta, you have character dependent weapon meta, which is pretty wild. So there's so many different variables at a high tier that it just makes it so impressive from a spectator standpoint. But guys, we are waiting to get these players loaded into our match number 2. Guys, we were only one game through, and it's already been this fantastic. We saw that 25 esports team walk away with a hefty victory. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that was Team FKB walking away with a second place, with that Wraith sneaking in out below the drop there. But I'm curious to see where the end game goes as well, of course. We do see a lot in ALGS and GLL formats as well. There's a lot of weird zone pulling. So the zones often kind of map to one singular area game after game, which of course is genuinely RNG, and it just tends to be bad luck for some players and some teams there, which isn't necessarily great. So we saw that, of course, closing area around Lava Siphon between Tree Siphon and Harvester right there on that bridge was that final zone. And I would love to see a fragment. I would maybe love to see a Skyhook. Maybe we can get a little bit of city combat. Could be pretty nifty here.
It's definitely a lot of places to fight. It's a lot of places to land. I kind of wanted to piggyback. You were talking about like the end game. Another reason I love Apex so much is because you do have different strategies that you get to implement. You have your early game strategy, and some teams thrive in early game and get a bunch of picks right off the rip. And other teams really thrive in that mid to late game. You know, they just have a better sense of when to push, when to collapse, when to do damage, when to heal. Just so much variability. And we already have a lot of players jumping off the ship. I feel like it could almost be beneficial to have a late landing and you know, try to get kitted and looted up before you fight. But if you drop early and you drop hot, you do get those extra kill points. So it's just going to be interesting to see how this plays off.
Absolutely, and I'm curious to see if anybody did go Countdown, and it does look like there is going to be a team going Lava Fisher, and maybe one going Countdown. It looks like a team may have gone Skyhook as well, and it looks like this actually might be 2 teams contesting each other. So in a lobby with a little bit less player group than traditional, we are already potentially going to see a 50-50 off drop. Now, if I'm the team that landed farther into Lava Fisher, I've got 2 things on my mind. One, am I going to get a great kit? Can I just ape the absolute hell out of this team that is going to be landing on the other side of Lava Fisher? And on the other hand, if I do not get good loot, am I just going to hook it right into Countdown and try to hit that button, get a little bit of sets of armor so I can make sure I'm defensible here? But this is going to be SPC Gaming. We did see a team land in the Lava Siphon, but we're going to swap over to the teams that are going to be in the Climatizer here. Now, for those of you that are some of my rankers here, and we have this wonderful overview here, courtesy of the Console Gaming production team here, but there is going to be an absolutely fantastic amount of purple armor in one of the gondolas. Pretty traditionally, we'll see. For those of you that play ranked a lot, there's just a weirdly high tier amount of loot at the Climatizer itself, and then pretty normally there is that purple that's on either side of the gondola. It's not consistently every time, but that's definitely a good little bit of luck there. Now, we do see the Seer Q coming into play, hitting Devil Lord Slater. We do see Charge Rifle as well, and the Seer Q comes in from the opposing team, but what neither of these teams seems to know is that there is another team biding its time on the right-hand side towards the back of Lava Fisher, toward the No Man's Land small beacon base, closer to staging here, waiting for this third party.
You know, I don't love the fighting on Lava Fissure. If I'm still stuck on that bridge, I'm trying to get off. There's just not that much cover. I mean, obviously you have the buildings there, but I mean, the other team just has so much more room and different angles to work with. You're going to get triangulated. And we're starting to see that these players try to hoof it out of Lava Fissure and try to get to a different area. I don't know, maybe they didn't have quite the guns or the kits for this engagement, but wisely getting out of there because the other team was starting to triangulate on where they were, and you know, if you turtle too hard, you're just gonna get pinched on. So just great heads up movement to get out of there when they did.
This crafting here in the center of Lava Fisher is unbelievably gutsy. Now, again, I make a lot of references to ranked here because that is pretty traditionally what most players are playing. That is very, very interesting. That's very gutsy because in most gunfights, if you're crafting, that big blue circle, that big lime circle that pops out of the crafter, pretty much here, Beacon, and I'm curious to see if this team gets punished for that or not. Now, we're on the POV of Devil Lord here from team number 12, and I believe we're getting clarification of what that team was, and I believe that's team HRV, if I'm not mistaken. But again, we all know and love some Apex with those beautiful spectator bugs, but a Bangalore in current comp is also pretty interesting. You don't see that. You will see a lot of players. You see a Shiv, you see a Snipe Down actually loves Bangalore, although he plays a lot of main meta characters, but Bangalore is going to go down there. Unfortunately, the double time not being able to get her out of that. Gibraltar taking a pretty significant amount of hits as well, and we do see that team fully aping. We see Poco with damage on the back, but this is actually going to be another third party, so the third becomes the third id in this circumstance.
You know, just like you said, man, that crafting station was kind of like a come kill me right now, and I'm not quite sure. Maybe I don't know if the Bangalore was intending on crafting or using that as like a halfway point of cover to try to get some aggressive movement and shots down on this other team. But the Bangalore kind of got themselves trapped there. And just like you said, right after you said it, you know, they got immediately punished for pushing that crafting station, especially when there's teams around. You know, if you're crafting, it should be after team fights, in my opinion. I don't think that's something you should be worried about while there's other people around, like, at all. Just even with the, like, if you do decide to craft, the animations are so long to craft. You get stuck in that screen. You really are just like a sitting duck.
Absolutely, and to couple that with the fact that these players are on controllers, so that ability to react and exit and enter the death box may be mapped behind one or two different buttons here. Now, interestingly enough, we do see up at the top left-hand corner of this map, we see a player there in Trials, and we see two of his teammates in Skyhook. Now, that could be a pretty easy ape for Chief and his team that we are seeing them sit here in Lava Fisher. If they hear the trickle off, that might be a fantastic opportunity for them to jump in there. Not entirely sure if they'd be wanting to do it, as this is currently already top 10, and teams may just not be ready to give it their placement here. But we do have a team at the No Man's Land. This is pretty often a beacon building here, right outside of West Frag, mistaken. That is going to be rotating towards Skyhook. That's going to be that beacon building. But we are going to swap back over to Team Slow. That's going to be Polka and his crew, who just won their third party of the century.
Level 2 package over there. We've extended light mag here. Level 3.
Now we're back on board with your clap as we pivot over to the Stick Drift crew. That is going to be Francis Sinatra TV. Now, Francis was the team that got his group into fourth place. Was the solo queued Octane that died right before the closing game, and I believe he again was that top 4 player. So he did at least eke his team out definitely some good placement points, and they did have some kills on the board as well. So definitely down but not out, and their full roster is live at this exact moment, which is fantastic. Now we are going to be seeing another team. This is going to be NTRO. I believe it's going to be Nitro Panther, if I'm not mistaken, is how that's worded. And they're going to be looking for a team to come up into Fragment here. They're watching for these teams to rotate. So, Nate, this is kind of what you were talking about, where you had liked to play on the edge of zones because you were waiting either to gatekeep someone or to guarantee that your back wasn't going to get hit and just setting yourself up for a lot of safety.
Yeah, I just think it's such, you know, if you're in the middle of a circle, everybody else is moving for that circle, and everybody moving into it is going to be looking for other players. I just feel like it's the best thing you can do to set yourself up for success. The flip side of this is, you know, if I'm thinking it, so are other players. So I think we're going to see a lot of like weird fights on the outside of the circle. It may be beneficial to actually rush the circle if everybody's thinking this way. It's going to be interesting to see, as we've kind of got all these teams like patrolling right now, just kind of trying to position for zone, position for loot, trying to, you know, make sure they can get to the circle without, you know, you don't want to get caught with your back to the circle as it's closing, you know, because then you have to worry about making it to the circle. You have distance to cover, and you're going to take damage if you don't do it in time. So it's just one of those things that you can do to set yourself up for success, I believe, is to just kind of push for that back of circle. Make sure you're there. Make sure you don't have to worry about moving while you're in an engagement. You know, if you're in an engagement, that should be the one thing you're worried about. You know, the circle can really ruin things for you.
Absolutely. We saw Team Snow, Team Slow, trying to shoot at that player that was going to be up on the God Rock. That's going to be Team No Way. So Team 13 is going to be your Team No Way. And they are rotating now into the Thermal. They were on top of that God Rock here, and we did see that team trying to take some shots at them. That's that Team Slow that we were referring to. Now, they're going to be looking at that new changed POI there. That is going to be what used to be Train Yard. And they are going to be looking at what is now called Landslide. Now, again, there may be a beacon there. A team may have been rotating to try to take a look onto that. We are going to be also just checking our backs from Lava Fisher here. This is a good spot to still hold if we don't know where the next zone is going, because we have a crafter, we have extra mats that are going to be resetting, we have the ability to farm batteries, we can even farm armor, and it looks like we're going to hopefully farm a team down here. It looks like a Hyde. BA and Hyde on the opposing side is going to be very, very low. That CRQ narrowly missing, and Poca trying to push that. And we might see Sky's ape a little bit too hard, too fast. That Gibraltar ulted himself to try to deny some kind of inting utility from the other team, or inting ability from the other team. We are going to see Poca get trapped now. A little bit of damage on him, and Gibraltar coming down, and it does look like that was his as well. We see his immediately on a cooldown, so his has finished firing, and he is going to be alone, stranded kind of behind enemy lines. This may have been a little too over-eager of a push there. Nate, what do you think about how hard they sent it on that one player?
I mean, they sent it hard, but, you know, I feel like in this instance, they actually put themselves into a disadvantageous spot. The players on Lava Fissure still actually have the cover, and now this team is, you know, stuck on the outside on this cliff. They do have their back to the circle, which is good, but they full sent on a player who not only got to heal, but, you know, they took a lot of damage and burned through a lot of resources. You know, it does look like everybody was able to kind of get their shields and health back up, but you lost all of your heals in this engagement, you know, and it's kind of a game of resources. It's not just a game of shooting, you know. If you can outlive the other team, you know, if you have more heals than the other team, you can take more damage, which gives you more opportunities to put more damage down. So I don't know, but they were able to retreat, which is great. And it just kind of looks like they're having this standoff here. I believe we saw earlier that the next zone was still going to be on Lava Fissure. So these players are going to be probably duking it out for quite a while before we're going to see one squad get knocked. I'm going to be interested to see who... I think it's going to be a test of resources, because they've been here at Lava Fissure for quite some time. We've had multiple engagements. So heals are probably running low. Ammo's probably running low, which is going to, I feel like, make these teams play a little antsier. Maybe push for that crafting machine, maybe push in to try to get a kill to get some loot, because they are running out of resources and running out of time.
Yeah, I would very much like to see a crafting rotation myself here. I think that we could use the Gibraltar bubble, so I would like to wait for Poca or the opposing Gibraltar to be able to get their ultimate available. You could throw your Seer ult to check if teams were coming up to you, and then you could also dome if you were able to nab some of those crafting materials here. But it does look like Team Slow is going to be pushing in a little bit. We do see Poca with kind of a wide flank on the right-hand side. Now, they've forced this team pretty much into one area is what it's looking like here. And it looks like they are going to be going for the full set on top of the building. Some shots do come in from behind on a low bridge, but they're trying to hit the individual player that is going to be inside this bunker here up at the top. Now, he's in a 1v1 with Gibraltar. His shields are broken, but it does look like the Gibraltar is going to fall. That's going to be Hyde who dies. We do have Poca as well as Gibraltar. Full shields, full health, able to Eva the Seer down. So 2 of the 3 players on that roster are down. It's going to be Deadly Kitten that falls as well. Now, we are going to be looking just for one more player, as it sounds like we're looking to get that Octane who is sent through the air. And unfortunately, no shots are going to be able to connect, but we are at least going to be given 2 kills out of that grouping. You know, that charge rifle might come in, and unfortunately, nothing does connect on that mid-air player.
Yeah, if I'm that Octane, man, I'm trying to get out of there.
I'm out.
I'm out, exactly. I mean, the best thing you can do for your team at this point is to just rat as long as you can and stay alive for placement points, because I don't think that Octane is going to be able to get any cards for reboot. I mean, there's just not a whole lot he can do. You know, that other team has Lava Fissure locked down. He's just one guy. So, I mean, if you're Octane now, I think the play, just kind of hang out and hide. And honestly, just try to play for placement and play for zone, which as Octane is very manageable because you have such a high rate of mobility. It's, you know, you can play for these zones. You can aggressively push for zones. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how long this Octane can eke out and survive for.
And I did believe one of those teams that we were just spectating right there, it may have been Team Slow, was able to use Seer to activate a beacon right there, because I did believe we did see this zone rotation, and it is going to center pretty interestingly. This one is going to be a little bit of a change. So Lava Fissure, this is going to rotate kind of closer to staging here on our left-hand side. Somewhere between Lava Fissure, staging, and maybe down all the way to Thermal, depending on what that size of that zone really is here. But what's interesting is we do still have 9 of the top 10 teams in this here, and then we do have, of course, our Team Slow as as well that we've been watching a pretty fair amount throughout this match here. They have a charge rifle, we have some scouts that we're able to employ, we have a lot of long distance weaponry comparatively to some of the teams that we saw in the first game, as well as they already have the zone, they still have that crafter at their back. I mean, they're kind of, not only were they lucky, they're already setting themselves up for success. So they've got kind of both sides of the coin, if you will. And they're also already set up with a lot of KP, because again, with limited players in the roster here, with limited amounts of kills, those 2, 3, 4 kills are going to be a lot more important than in a 20-team role where you would be able to walk away with 9 or 10 kills if you had a good game.
Yeah, you know, you took the words right out of my brain, Dragonite. I was just about to note that, you know, we're seeing a lot more long-range weapons in play this game. Maybe it was like a learned thing from the last game, as we saw like a lot of poking, and some of the teams didn't quite have the guns or optics to be having these long-range engagements. But this game, we've seen snipers, we've seen scouts. And I don't know, could it be RNG? Is this what you just got in the early parts of the game, and you know, you got your gun and you're rocking with it, or is this intentional? We do still, you know, we've seen everybody seems to have that EV8 in the back pocket, so you've got your close range covered, but I'm seeing a lot more long range weapons this game than we saw in the last match.
As am I, and I think that's forcing, or not forcing, but allowing these teams to set up very differently here. Because, of course, you had your hot game. I mean, if you're Team 25, for instance, you had a hot game, you just want to play back. You don't need to be in those engagements. We see Team No Way trying to take pot shots at the team that is going to be up on the top of the God Rack here. Now, this is one of those things that you can do that's so dangerous, because you can put yourself into such a powerful position like this, but the second that you get flanked by another team, rocking a hard place literally. I mean, if you give up height on this, the team that's below you on the left with Stank is going to ape to your side here, because they have visibility now. For that team that's No Way up on top, that is going to be pushing towards the God Rock, also is going to be able to just get a quick pick on top of you as well. Now, we do see that Seer, he's repeatedly heartbeat checking just to make sure that nobody's rotating around him in kind of an unorthodox way, or anybody's going to be sneaking up behind him. We do see 8 squads as opposed to the 9 we were spectating over at Lava Fisher, and it looks like a couple errant shots are coming in from that God Rock, and we do see a care pack as well. Not entirely sure what was going to be on that, but a player may have a gold weapon or a gold utility helmet or bag as well. It's going to be Team 13. That is your team No Way, which you can, of course, tell with that gamer tag series right there. But a lot of teams playing more carefully, I think, than we saw in the first game. At this point in time, we had been down to about 4, 5, 6 teams, and we still, of course, have our top 8. A lot of people are realizing that they may not be as good or as lucky as they had originally thought.
Yeah, absolutely. The 9th squad that was eliminated was our lone Octane. Was unfortunately taken out, did the best they could to survive, but got collapsed on by a bunch of different teams while trying to escape. So 7 squads left, as we do have some action going down now. Great damage with this R301.
Beautiful.
You know, I like this Wraith play. Get to some cover. You know, minimal damage taken, but you know, kind of scouting for the team, trying to move into this house, which is gonna have kind of some cover, but it's gonna, you know, look at the cliffs around it. You know, now you're fish in a barrel. We've talked about this already. We do have a 12th level going down.
That was so brutal. They kidnapped themselves. That whole team was staying still so they wouldn't appear on the heartbeat monitor of that player, that Seer right there. And so they were able to jump directly into the house, completely in the view of the opposing team. They had no idea that that team was there, so they got themselves killed. And unfortunately, although Team No Way is going to be able to get some points right here, and your Salem, your opposing championship team, actually, your champion team, did just die as well. So Team No Way was able to walk out with a kill. The opposing team, I believe, thirsted them. We are going to see VFG stuck on the truck right there, and it looks like he's going to be shot in the back, but a couple players are going to be able to give him some cover. And there is the Crypto that I was curious about as well, able to pop that Gibraltar Dome on that team that was trying to bubble forward onto the Octane pad. So again, a lot of different plays here. We also see the charge rifle set up here on top, and they're setting themselves up to be able to swap back to some other weapons here when it becomes close combat time. So not only is this team in a good spot and they were able to survive on the God Rock, they are also set up very, very well to make sure that they get in and out of rotations and have versatile weaponry here. Now, we do see that player shooting that Octane pad. Nate, I think you made a note about that earlier. There was another pad on the right-hand side, accuracy from that Wraith, and he was taking down that Octane pad so any other team couldn't rotate in or around them as well. So you are going to see a lot of teams do that at a height here. They're going to be griefing Octane pads, so players can and cannot rotate in different ways.
Yeah, I mean, if you can take out that Octane pad before the rest of the team gets to use the Octane pad, now you've got an Octane who's alone, and then you have 2 players who are also separated from their third. So it just it creates an opportunity. Yeah, trapped, exactly. It creates opportunities for you to kind of single out these kills. And if you can get one kill, you're in a better place to wipe a squad, because that's one less person shooting, one less person healing, one less person you have to worry about. Yeah, also, I just wanted to know, that was great movement out of the Viet Chi, I believe the player was, the Octane player. We just saw sneak away while taking damage and healing at the same time. We've got some action going down in No Way.
It just looks like Zypyr was the only player who was going to potentially make it out of there, and it doesn't look like we saw him in the kill feed, though. We did see Rainbow Ape take out another one of those players. That is going to be iCrypto. Viet Chi able to take out Blue Wizard. Superior able to take out that player, BZZ, right there. And then we are going to see, look at that player with little to no health. One Seer Q could make the difference between that player being knocked or not, because that does directly attack the health, but that is going to be our Rainbow Ape. That is Zypyr, who was able to get the kill onto another solo. So we have a solo versus solo situation here from Team No Way, and that's very, very important, because he got his team not only a kill, but he was able to get placement points as well. Now, very consistent damage out of Zypyr right here. We see that red armor shield on a Gibraltar, so of course you have that 50 damage gun shield. He's checking his corners, but he, of course, has that red shield as well. So he's sitting at 225 in terms of max health, plus that 50 gun shield. Gibraltar is going to be your most armored character in the game. That is pretty standard knowledge for most players that are entering Apex, but of course that red shield just is something to note, because that shows you've done considerable damage, and you've also survived for a long time here. Now, of course, you don't really want to be that solo Gibraltar at this point, because teams are pretty sure, I mean, when you're playing in a high tier format like this in a tournament, people are watching that kill feed. So people are aware that if they see that No Way gamer tag, or if they see that one lone Gibraltar, that they are going to know who and what they're fighting. And it looks exactly like we're going to see that from Chief and his team. They're going to be taking a little bit of damage going into attack Zypyr, but Zypyr, I believe, is actually ratting in one of the corners in one of these bases here. So that team rotated entirely past Zypyr. So he's going to be trying to make sure he can get his way into that top 3. I'd like to see if we can swap to No Way Zypyr's POV to see if he can actually see any of these opposing players as he's trying to sit in the space.
You know, that was actually brilliant. I believe he's under the base right now. Absolutely. Yeah, great heads up play, because he knew those players were going to be running into the house where he was hiding. Because why not? That's the place to go. That's got the cover, you know. And he does find a player. Holds off on shooting his gun, but it does look like he's found. No, unfortunately taken out. I was wondering, but I think those players could smell him out. You know, I think they knew he was still in the area. And okay, he's not in the house, where could he be? But I just really, what a smart idea to go under the base as opposed to inside of it. Because that's where they originally were hiding. But yeah, just great heads up. And we have Viet Chi here at the top, just kind of holding high ground as these players are kind of having to scrap. And you know, this team with high ground has just all the room to work with. They've got angles, they've got height advantage, and these other two teams are scrapping. It looks like this team with high ground here is going to be the one, you know, if I had to call it, I would say they're going to come out in first, just because of high ground. You know, this other team is scrapping with the second and third, so they're going to get third partied here, and look how patient they're being.
No, I don't love the Viet Chi's going for a flank here. I mean, this could be a really, really powerful play if you can force one of these teams to try to peek a little bit on top. But if he gets caught with his pants down, there is an Octane pad he can take, but it's kind of in an odd way for a controller to have to rotate. Now, I do want to maybe call a bluff on this one, Nate, because that height advantage can be really good. But we do see a Gibraltar up above. But if they're able to do some kind of damage to that Gibraltar forces bubble early and call a Gibraltar ult, they can actually take cover under their own ult without popping a bubble and wait under that could punish them, because that team is going to take stun damage falling from the top. You're going to have a small, like 1.5 second animation where you just literally sit still and you're not able to fire your weapon. So sometimes that height versatility is actually not good. I do really like the respawn beacon, though, that one of this opposing teams has dropped there to employ a little bit of cover for them to be able to peek that doorway. Now, a beautiful frag grenade is going to come in. We see that Octane running across. I believe that was 48 damage out of Reese right here. Excuse me if I'm not mistaken here. And that was going to be considerable damage.
You know, unless the circle closes in on SPC Gaming, they're just going to be able to sit here on high ground and take these pot shots for the rest of the match. As the circle's closing these players out of the base, they're closing these players out of the cover. They have nowhere to go. It's literally an open pit.
Wow. Let's talk about Crypto's versatility right there. That team hit itself with its own ult, because Crypto, doing Crypto things, was able to pop that Gibraltar bubble and was able to cause that team to do damage. That's that legend versus legend meta and versatility, Nate.
Yep, and SPC Gaming is the champion here, right? Just like I called it. They played that high ground so patiently, so perfectly, and they were able to just sit up there and kind of wait. They got lucky with the circle here, and, you know, those players had to push out into basically an empty arena with just these players raining fire down onto them. So great heads-up plays out of Viet Chi, staying alive. Great lives, great heals, you know, great damage out of all of SPC Gaming. Good job on game 2, guys. That's all
Absolutely.
I got to say. That was very well played. Very, very big brain Apex being played.
I agree 100%, and that's a big discrepancy as well from what we had seen before with some of those previous teams. I mean, we saw that 25 Esports get a pretty great game number 1. I think they got 5th or 6th this matchup here. And post game, of course, we will be able to kind of tally up and see what these points are at. I was actually going to take a look here on my offhand. I have one of the lists of teams here, and so I'm going to take a peek in just a second here. But I mean, I think you were absolutely right, Nate. That team with high ground, that's such a tough call, but having that Gibraltar would have protected them from a top-down bombardment anyway, and they had their full ultimate that Gibby was able to throw his ult. We did see the opposing Gibby throw the bubble, and then in comes Crypto, and your bubble was only half as long as it was supposed to be, so the ult you called on yourself and the opposing team's ult was certain destruction. That's a lot of KP for that team, because Crypto stuns you. You're trapped in a Gibraltar ult, which also causes stun. You're trapped in your own ult. I mean, perfect storm, pour a little bit of lava in there, gunfire, a little bit of hell. I mean, top to bottom, that was not a safe place to be. A lot of good weapon versatility and meta versatility as well. I just got to give you props on being able to call that top team for being able to move forward there as well. I was praying for our No Way Gibraltar right there. I was hoping nobody was going to sniff him out. We were going to see a clutch second place again from another team, but a valiant effort regardless. But any closing comments for game number 2, Nate?
I just wanted to you know, this Gibraltar on Team No Way, right? I feel like had he maybe not shot at the player, I notice this happens in Apex all the time. Players will walk right past you. If you don't shoot, you know, you don't necessarily alert them that you're there. I feel like maybe he could have played it a little sneakier, just not shot and hope that nobody saw him. But I mean, once he started shooting, it was game over. Just great. I don't know. I'm stoked. I'm having a great time. I think the games are flowing great. We've seen a lot of weapons. We've seen a lot of different champions doing really cool things. So just great, like you said, great versatility so far in the second game.
Well, guys, before we cut to our break, of course, we always have those nifty replays. I am your chair number 1 Dragonite. I am joined by Tenacious Nacho, Nate Dowg, who is going to be our second chair with the Console Gaming League Summer Series. And we have to give a nod to our Console Gaming League production team as well, as we always do. Console Gaming League may or may have not decked me out in some pretty cool threads. So before we go to our commercial break, once again, we got a nod, and hopefully I can use the right shoulder this time. Nobody saw me miss that last time, but new.gg is going to have Console Gaming League merch. This beautiful mint green. They've actually just released a wave number 2 that has a lot more kind of almost a ravey vibe to it. It's very I'm not sure what the technicality or what the verbiage for that should be, but it's very festive. I like it. It's very colorful. So if you're interested in supporting the Console Gaming League as well, this is a fantastic way both to rep their brand and end up with some pretty high quality merch as well. But guys, we will be right back with you. Nate and I will be back with the action. The Console Gaming League production team will be back to bring you some highlights. We've got about a 5-minute break for these teams to use the restroom, get that water, and hopefully calm some nerves, because for some of these teams, this was not a hot series of games. Now, guys, we'll be right back with you. Don't go anywhere. Ladies and gentlemen, we're back. This is going to be game number 3 for the Console Gaming League Summer Series of 2021. Now, I am your host, Dragonite. I'm joined by Nate Dowg, Mr. Tenacious Nacho, and we just watched a very interesting game where SPC was able to walk away with our first place. Now, Nate and I had a player we definitely wanted to call out, so of course, props to SPC, but we saw something in there that we thought was very clutch and then turned very unfortunate very quickly. So, Nate, why don't you illustrate to the folks that are in the chat one of the things we just almost had? All the puzzle pieces were there, they just got knocked on the floor.
Okay, so I really wanted to give some props to Team No Way here. We see them in second place right now. I think they're definitely a contender to win this tournament. We've seen them take top 4 in the last 2 games. I'm starting to see a pattern form, you know. It has only been 2 games, but, you know, we've seen them play consistently. The Gibraltar, specifically on Team No Way, just great tracking, great damage, great movement. We saw them try to eke out at the end of the game, and they actually had hit under the base. I really feel like had they maybe not shot, they might have gone unnoticed. At the end of the game, everybody was kind of scrambling in that last little scrap. But just really heads up plays from Team No Way right now. I'm very impressed with how they are playing as a whole, and specifically their Gibraltar player is absolutely doing wonderful things.
I agree 100%. Look at this point breakdown here. So we had that 25 esports, and this was, again, for those of you guys who have stuck with us through a couple of the games here now, as we're heading into game number 3, we are almost halfway done. Now, for those teams that have competed before, this might just be another day at the office. For the teams that haven't, you're almost halfway done in terms of capability to get points to move forward. Now the top 10 teams, so the left-hand side of this player roster moves forward to our match series that is going to be played on the 28th. Now, what's really difficult about this for 25 esports, they had that pop off game number 1. I mean, I think they had 24 points in game number 1 conclusively. What is a little bit nerve-wracking here for me if I'm 25 esports, why was my game number 2 nowhere my game number 1? It's totally cool if your game number 1 is just a pop-off game. We all have that. TSM has it. Cloud9 has it. Scars has it. It doesn't matter. I mean, players across all esports titles, regardless of Apex even, will have a pop-off game. You'll have some crazy career stats and you'll move forward, and that's great. And we all thumbs up that. Really tough to see not the Saints on what we would expect to be another high-placing team. So, again, if there's a lot of moving parts there, if you're a team that doesn't necessarily compete a lot, that could be really rough for you because you may be getting into your own nerves at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. I think mentality here is going to be the make or break kind of decision for 25 because as a competitor, you have to shake off when bad things happen to you. If something bad happens in a game, you really have to shake it off and move on. They had a wonderful game number 1, and game number 2, not so great, but you're still in first place. Your first game was so great that you are still in first place. We saw Team SPC take first place, and they're only in 5th right now. So, it is cumulative. There are still 4 more games to play. And, as a competitor, you just have to shake off and do the best that you can do. You have to look at every engagement as its own thing. You can't be worried about, oh, I took so much damage, I'm mad, this guy's crossing me. You really have to stay calm and collected. And when there's in a competitive environment like this, nerves will get the best of players. You're gonna have missed shots, you're gonna have bad pushes, you're gonna have lucky moments, unlucky moments. You have to take all of that with a grain of salt and just play your game the best that you can. That being said, I also feel like Apex is the type of game where if you're doing everything right, the other team doesn't get to play. This is this rings true in many FPS titles and many competitive esports. But if your team's doing all the things right, the other team doesn't get to play. So just focus on playing your game to the best of your ability and go from there. Take it one engagement at a time. Very interesting to see what's going to happen in this game 3. I'm hoping that we see 25 esports take some more points. It's going to be tough. Maybe, like you said, maybe they had a good drop, and then that good drop led them to a lot of gear. Maybe they dropped hot. They got a lot of kills that first game. Second game, maybe a little bit of bad luck, maybe a bit of circle luck. It's tough to say, but just, reinforcing good fundamentals and trying to do everything by the book and to do everything right, moment by moment. That's how you're going to win this.
Absolutely. I mean, you got to do things periodically, right? Or systematically, rather. Because if you go to int on a team, if you go to full send into something, I mean, you might get rewarded, but if you're already starting to be on your back foot, you're going to be in an even worse place than you were initially. So, I mean, that's that gamble, right? And that's, in fact, like when we saw that 50-50 at Lava Fisher. Mm-hmm. With less teams in the lobby, there is no reason for you to land on another team. That is completely unnecessary. And I don't believe that the team that died was actually the team that landed Lava Fisher initially. There's not really a reason to rotate to another POI in the first place unless you're trying to get some kills because you didn't perform well. So that's such a and it's a gamble, literally. It's a coin flip for both teams, and that's what's unfortunate.
Well, like there's high, certain drop points have better loot than others. Are you just going to let a team drop there and get that loot for free because they just happen to drop there? Like you said, there is no reason to be letting it different POIs, but certain POIs have better loot. So it is a gamble, like you said, high risk, high reward. If you do drop on that team and get the better loot before them, you can eke out with a couple kill points. You've eliminated a team. if you don't get the loot, you're getting no placement points, probably, few kill points if anything. So it is super high risk to land on another team. But like I just said, are you just going to let this team drop and get the good loot because they just have, it is such a gamble. But that's all part of the competitive meta. That's all part of the strategy, as a player myself, I probably in this environment would be looking to get geared first before I engage. I think as a player, I would want to make sure that my squad's kitted, has some heals, has some guns to fight with. But it's all part of the tournament.
It absolutely is. And that's one of the things you can see further into tournaments too. You will see teams grief other teams on purpose. Because, I mean, am I going to stack up against a Scars? Probably not. I'm not going to win against the #1 European team. On that offhand, right, if my team gets 3 purples and 2 Spitfires, I mean, maybe I could win against Scars. And so not only do I take out the first place team, I guarantee myself a couple kill points, which, I mean, again, a gamble is exactly the perfect way to put that. But that can change something very quickly, because even a Scars, a C9, your TSMs, right? They're going to play well no matter what, even if they're not getting that first place. But if they get ripped off right off of literally the drop and they get 0 points, other pro teams are not getting 0 points. So that could negatively affect their score and positively affect yours. So that could flip in 2 different directions in a good way.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things to consider in Apex. You kind of have to be considering, like, okay, what guns do they have? What guns do we have? What ults do they have? Have they used their ults? What abilities do they have? If you push on that Revenant squad and you get hit with a fat silence right off the bat, like, you're kind of in trouble. It's just all things to consider. But again, I think what makes this game so exciting.
Absolutely, there's always something new. And that's so impressive with Apex too, is that, like, even though there's always something new, there's enough the same that viewers and players are able to grasp. I think Apex has that perfect formula, if you will. We are going to see, okay, this is interesting. We do see 2 or 3 teams dropping into into Fragment this time. So that's going to be very important. I think we saw 1 drop west, 1 drop east at least. Doesn't look like we've seen any teams go Overlook yet. I think we probably saw 1 go Climatizer. Looks like this might be a late Geyser rotation, potentially from a team here. We do definitely see a Climatizer right there on the right-hand side of your screen. We've got at least 2 going Lava Siphon, so we may get a 50-50 off the drop there. And that's a pretty reasonable one because of the loot density here. But we are going to be watching our Overlook team drop. We're going to have 1 player. It looks like there may be a beacon on the board there, and that player is going to be rotating towards that beacon. So that's going to give a lot of early game advantage. The difficult part about landing somewhere that does have a beacon is that odds are you're going to see so much of the zone that it's not really going to help you. And so the beacon early off, if you have like a Pathfinder, for instance, that can give you a zip line, but Pathfinder isn't really meta at this point. So it kind of is a moot point, at least round 1. But a little bit of additional info never hurt anybody, and the loot density up at Overlook is fantastic. Now, this is going to be our team that did drop into Fragment. This is going to be the east side, and then we're going to swap over to the team Stick Drift Crew, which is fantastic, of course, for those of us that play on controller. That is definitely a callback to a lot of things we've all experienced here as the team that lands in the epicenter here. Now, Nate, this is Team No Way. This is one of our favorite teams here. This is an interesting little group of weapons that they'd had right there. I believe we did see that Rampage LMG that we talked about, and that L-Star that is going to be coming meta as well. So a lot of these teams very quickly getting kitted with a lot of the meta weapons, a lot of luck off of drop here. So yeah, you're seeing quite a few good versatile weapons.
We're both on Twitter. You spend a lot of time on Twitter. I spend a lot of time on Twitter. I have seen so many Apex players complaining about the light machine gun meta.
Yes.
I feel like it's one of those things you have to roll with the meta. You see, like, if you watch League of Legends, there's always tweaks and changes. Those players that are at the top, they roll with the meta. They play what's in the meta. So it's kind of like, the evil versus the evil you don't. You kind of have to roll with what's meta at the moment. And right now it is those light machine guns. That Rampage is just a force to be reckoned with. And so it's nice for me. It feels fresh every season. Different guns are better. Some guns are worse. This gun was great last season, and now it's garbage. Yeah. Again, it's what makes Apex exciting. But I am currently loving the light machine gun meta. I think it's exciting, and I think it rewards players with good aim.
I think so too, and the light guns do nerfed damage, but they're easy to manage here, so it's kind of a good trade-off there. Now, this is an interesting fight there. We saw the Gibraltar bubble outside of Trials in kind of no man's land over there on the side of Western Skyhook. kind of amount to nothing here. We do see an opposing team on the side that does look like that's the team at Lava City there as well. We see Chief very far in the background here. And we are going to see a couple teams on the left-hand side, or excuse me, a singular team on the left-hand side as well. It looks like Snifty's going to be inside trying to do the trials themselves while the opposing team holds out on the outside to guarantee they're not getting aped. But we talked about those teams luckily getting a purple shield. In case in point, look at that. We're going to have Boda with the purple shield right there. So he is going to be able to int this team. Sure, they're not entirely aware of what the shields look like on the opposing team, but this could be really, really bad very quickly for that roster that is inside of Trials. Now, I believe that was the Trials sound that activated. We heard that Bloodhound howl, and I don't believe that was an ult activating. Now, curious to see if this team rotates on top of that, getting height, but it looks like a beautiful, beautiful longbow shot was going to connect with that player that was going up into the sky. So that's going to be Kappa, who is going to be falling back down the outside of the top of the Trials there, and is going to be left with not only no shields, but with 50, I believe that's actually about 60 health right there. I think that health bar looks right over the halfway there. So we do see Hyde up on the top. That was our Octane from game number 2 that was able to eke out that 8th place placement points for his team. And we now see blue armor on that team as well. So that was a lot of poke damage and a lot of nice trading damage from the lower armor team that was in Trials.
Level 3.
So here's what's great about that. That longbow shot single-handedly stopped. I think that team was going to push the players who had started Trials. And that longbow shot single-handedly prevented them from pushing because you got a player that was so weak, there was no point in pushing because it was almost a guaranteed knock. So that is going to enable the players over at Trials to complete the Trials, to get some loot. It looks like we're switching over here. We have some action going down.
The Climatizer.
Yeah, 3. It looks like that gunfire is going to probably draw that other team to try to third party. So they're gonna have to get these knocks quickly if they want to make sure they secure the kill points. As it does look like that other team actually doesn't look like they're in much of a position to push. So this is just gonna be a squab in the house.
Yeah, and it looks like that third party from the center of Epicenter may come into play. We do see Russo in the background there. They are kind of rotating, though. That's closer to the respawn beacon, but we do see, I think, an Octane pad maybe coming into play as you saw a couple players in the air. That was a very quick wipe. A lot of well-placed work stars inside that Gibraltar bubble actually sealed their fate there. Them trying to camp that bubble was ending up killing them. We just hear another Arc Star in the background. This is Team HRV. This is going to be Devilord, that Bangalore that unfortunately was crafting in our previous match and ended up dying pretty quickly off the drop, I think getting 12th or 11th place at the Lava Fisher in the last engagement there. But there was going to be a team into Trials that had rotated all the way through, and they may have been looking to pick up a little bit of the scraps there, but got pushed off at the top of it. Now we do see Devilord in our foreground here. This is going to be the POV of Slater, his teammate right there. And we're going to swap over to another team that is going to be right above No Man's Land near Thermal outside of one of the, I believe that's Countdown as well. Now we do see that LMG that you liked, Nate. There's a couple players with no health. That Seer hit is going to stop them from healing. Rise is going to be forced to rebat here, although the Prowler is going to be coming into play now. Of course, on a controller, that Prowler is absolutely deadly. The PK comes in, though. The Gibraltar is broken on the outside balcony. We do have both the Octane and the Gibraltar pretty good health here. We may try to get this bubble res and have that player hold the outside. That Seer Q isn't going to stop this res as well, although it is annoying and is able to do that. Now, no way. The singular Seer is going to be trying to make it out of the Gibraltar hold, and it looks like he's narrowly going to make it out. That team probably prioritizing a res rather than chasing this individual player here. He is going to be able to just run, but with him still left in the lobby, this is an entirely full lobby still. There may not be an opportunity for him to truly get out.
It's absolutely heartbreaking for Team No Way right now. At this point, the only play is to try to play for placement. But I also believe we saw France Sinatra, I believe is the player's name. He was that Octane player who we saw escape last game. And I believe he's a solo right now, as I do believe his squad was taken out, and he is running around that map, Octane, and again, trying to stay alive. So I believe we have 2 solos in this match currently that are just trying to stay alive and play for placement.
I think that's exactly right. And that Francis, the Sinatra player, again, last time as well, was the player that got 4th place in our game number 1 that was taken by 25 Esports. So I think there's definitely an opportunity for him to get in and out. And maybe, I didn't get to see if we were able to pick up banners there, but I think there could definitely be a chance. Now, again, a lot of these players are making some smart plays, but case in point, we do hear that res right there. The player may have been able to get a banner right out of there. We do see a squad in the background go ahead and go down, so that is going to be 12 squads left as opposed to the 13 that we'd had previously. And we're going to be on board with Crypto. He's heart beating just to see if he is able to look into that base and get his teammates banners here. He knows he has to play kind of quiet. For those of you that are in the chat, unfortunately, this player has a particularly interesting name because he's playing the character Seer, but his handle is Crypto. So that is one of the important things to keep a hold on here. But that no-handed ADSing is going to be what Seer is going to be doing to get that heartbeat sensor. And we know that that player just has to play a little bit quieter than the opposing teams here because he just can't get picked out. We need that top 10 placement to get a little bit of that point multiplier. But look at that left-hand side of your screen where we are around No Man's Land in that Lava Fisher staging area. We hear the Bloodhound ult in the background. We see a player on the right-hand side being taken down. The Gibraltar ult is happening. That is going to be a series of fights on the God Rock. There is a lot of combat between here and the area in Skyhook and Countdown. In case in point, we're swapping over to Countdown. We see that mid-tier loot indicator, although all these players are purple. The Seer Q is going to come out, so we get a read on at least one character. Gunshots coming in. We see the heartbeat monitor as well. And that player inside is going to be getting the Beamerson right to the chest there. I believe he is broken, and that Gibby ult is going to come into play. Now, we are not yet sure whose ultimate that is, but one of these players is getting tracked by the Seer ult. In fact, all of them are still. We see them in that radius here. The Gibraltar ult is, or excuse me, the Bangalore ult is ready for Devil Lord as well. Now, that's not exactly a good offensive ult, but it is definitely a fantastic one to keep people backed off. Now, we swap immediately to another conflict in the No Man's Land below the God Rock position, right outside of Lava Fisher between that and Countdown. So the entire left-hand side of this map here towards the bottom left is pretty much just stuck in skirmishes. And this is, interestingly, a much faster series of games and gunfights than we had seen in the previous two matches.
Yeah, last game we were definitely seeing a lot more long-range play, and I feel like maybe it was attributed to player nerves, and now these players are just, it seems like they're going all close range, and they just want to squab. They want to get in there, they want to shoot their guns, they want to get these kills. We do see...
Oh. It looks like Team SPC, the team from first place in the previous match here, was taken out, and I believe that gave them, they were the 10th place team. Looked like at least one or two players in the SPC roster were thirsted, at least. We saw them in that kill feed there, so whether or not they got entirely wiped is yet to be determined there, but that is going to be a big series of fights. Nate, I don't think we've seen a single team win and then have consistent placing the game following.
Yeah, I mean, exactly right. Maybe it's a little overconfidence. Actually, I was so surprised to see Viet Chi taken down that I was speechless. I couldn't talk about it. I was so, because like I was just starting to, you know, build up this storyline. I love watching Octane. I love high risk, high pace gameplay, and I've seen Viet Chi doing some awesome stuff. So I was kind of disappointed to see Viet Chi taken down because they had won the last game, because I'd seen such great plays. And even this game, you know, we saw Team SPC stuck in that house. One of their players was knocked, and they managed to scrap out and get the knock picked back up. And so I thought they were in a great position to maybe, you know, win this game as well. But unfortunately taken out. Unfortunate for Team SPC.
You know, I love to see Hyde and his whole roster camp on that door for a second. My inner mantra in my head was just thinking, knock, knock, Gibraltar's here. Do you have a moment to talk about the Allfather? And Blue Wizard's like, no, dude, I really don't. This is not the time for that. And you see Rainbow 8 peeking the door on the left-hand side of your screen right there. And this is going to be kind of one of those traditional Apex standups, right? You've got a relative character meta. We have another team that's set back up top on the God Rock. I believe one of the teams in here, I believe Deadly Kitten and his team actually fell in that like 5th place when we saw those 3 or 4 teams skirmish down here last time in the previous circle as well. This is going to be Team Vittori here with Kitten, Snifty, and Hyde. There is going to be an L-Star coming into play. Of course, you and I had talked about the LMG meta. That's kind of just traditional. I mean, of course, every season we see a couple guns rotate in and out of the ability here. This is a very difficult season for players that, and this is going to sound corny, but players that focus a ton on visuals, because the L-Star is effectively a flashbang and a gun at the same time. Couple that with Seer's tactical, you're just blinded for a solid 2 seconds. I mean, Bangalore who? I've got an L-Star. I mean, it's almost a dollar store version of another character's ability. Now, I really like where No Way Crypto is just doing his best. Seer's looking at his hands. He's got his nifty top hat. He, if anybody played Pokemon XD, he reminds me a lot of Mirror B with the top hat, which is just absolutely fantastic character design. So we love to see a lot of things in Apex make me laugh, and a lot of gun skill in this game makes me happy. I think no matter what area you're looking at, there's always something great to look in an Apex, even an AFK player just trying to rat his way into the top 5.
I mean, but that's exactly what he needs to be doing. He just needs to lay low and play for placement. You know, I think they're in like 2nd place right now, or 3rd place in terms of overall points. So, you know, your squad's wiped, 9 squads left. The best thing you can do is play for placement, and what a better way to do that, just lay low. You don't even have to shoot your gun. This team on the God Rock here it looks like they're starting to get pushed. I was about to say, these two teams on the bottom, I wouldn't want to scrap there knowing that team has high ground and is just waiting to move in third party. So I like to see the aggressive action being taken by Team Yorklapt as they're pushing up this ridge here and trying to push these players up on the God Rock.
And it looks like they're going to do exactly what I was curious about. Now that Octane doesn't have a jump pad, I might want to wait until they get a jump pad so they can contest that God spot as well, be able to get up there. But it looks like there was a team contesting them from the other side at the truck as well. So the team that was on the God spot did wisely back down. Now there is an Octane pad already placed for them. In case in point, look at that. That teammate did just go down. That player on Nitro Panther is going to be taking considerable damage. We do see what looks to be Chifuya is going to be pushing, and he is also wisely backing down there. None of these teams really want to over contest because now they're all kind of at each other's sides. We've all seen that Office skate where Michael Scott and his coworkers are all pointing the finger guns at each other, and that's unfortunately kind of where we are. We also see Leon and Patsy, one of the teams, I believe that's going to be the aim assist boys, who are a little bit down in terms of height, but all still alive there as well. So a lot of full rosters, a lot of full teams. Beautiful. I believe that's going to be repeater damage coming out of Rainbow Ape here as he sits on top of the God Rock here. And this is exactly where you want a Gibraltar. You've got your Gibraltar. He's in a little bit of a vulnerable spot here, but very important. He's able to use his jump shield. He's got a long distance weapon. He can tank that first shot. Beautiful headshots, consistent. That's 150 damage in 2 shots between that player right there. That repeater not making that big of an appearance in the meta, so it's fantastic to see some players using weapons that are a little bit unorthodox, especially as these players have kind of opted, some of them opting to go incredibly close, some of them opting to go incredibly far. And that gold shields is making it so these players can afford to peek a little bit more often. You normally don't see a Gibraltar, and I think he was shooting a Gibraltar with a gold right there. But regardless, that was really good damage out of that player. He was able to farm up that red. Might want to see an armor swap and have him farm for his teammate, but they don't even need that. Look at that. You look up in your top left-hand corner, that's a gold and 2 reds. That team is kitted, God spotted. They are in position.
And Rainbow Ape is just raining fire down with this 30-30 repeater. Like you said, it's not a gun that I ever really choose to pick up, but I can't think of a better gun to have up on this God Rock right now. I think it would even be better than snipers because this 30-30 repeater, you have the rate of fire, you have, they have high ground, so the bullet drop isn't as important. And he is just making this gun work. As we saw, over 1,100 points of damage, and we saw at least 300 of it just raining down from that God Rock. Just great shots from Rainbow Ape.
With this team HRV right here, I know Devil Lord's main might be a Bangalore, and I would love to see different characters enter the metagame and be able to be played at a high tier. Bangalore, with the wall hack meta that we have currently, is just not a viable character, and I think this Bangalore could provide a lot more utility to their team if they were able or willing or comfortable swapping to another legend. Now, Gibraltar and Bangalore play relatively similar because you've got an offensive bombardment effectively that comes down. Now, that Alternator is going to make an appearance here, though. We're going to be dropping a Volt down on the ground. That Bangalore is going to be taking that. Now, for those of you that have some Season 2, Season 3 flashbacks here, you're going to have a little PTSD there because that Disruptor Round Alternator has re-entered the scene. I believe that was going to be the Alternator, and one other weapon had that, I believe, in that season there. And that gun was just absolutely brutal because it eats shields at like 2 to 3 times the regular rate of damage and does a little bit under normal damage to flesh. So if you've coupled that in some kind of team shot environment, that Alternator is absolutely brutal. Now, the R9 in the hands of Deadly Kitten, though, and the one-tap longbow to clear the kill onto Leon, guaranteeing, this player's already guaranteed their team 3 singular kills and a top 8 placement there. So you're going to get a good point multiplier over a point addition as well as the couple kills his team also probably has here. So Team Vittori has been down this series, but definitely not out. And I'm looking to see and hoping that they're going to perform exactly the way we're seeing them in our current POV.
We were just talking about the wall hack meta, kind of eliminating the use for the Bangalore smoke grenade. But I think that Bangalore ult is so important in these team fights. You can use it to almost zone or buy yourself time to get away. I think that Bangalore ult potentially is one of the best offensive ults in the game. That being said, the utility, it's kind of useless in this meta, especially if you have a seer. Not only do they get to see you running through the smoke, they get to see how much health you have running through the smoke. But that Bangalore ult is so huge. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out.
Bangalore has often reminded me of like a Soldier 76, where Bang is a fantastic player for players that are getting into Apex to use. And you do see players like a Shiv, right? You can see Shiv has insane gun skill and game knowledge, and I believe was 3rd in the national championships for the most recent European Apex. And so, there's no question that can Bangalore be played? Absolutely. I think, can Bangalore make as big of an impact as some other characters? I don't think so, and that's player dependent. Now, again, if this team comp is working for this player, there's absolutely no reason for us to not do this. I do really like that we have some armor swaps set up in the top of this base as well. That's Leon's team. They are a man down. I don't know if there was a Moby Beacon that is going to be able to play there. We do see Salem on the bottom left-hand corner. That's Devil Lord and Slater teaming up to take out Salem. That alternator is coming into play. That man was melted in a half second right there. Unfortunately, there are 2 or 3 players trapped outside of the zone. That's going to be Potsy the Bloodhound. He's going to fall. His teammate dying to zone as well. We immediately see 2 full teams wipe. Sniffy able to get the lifeline to Potsy. We see the Gibraltar ult coming in. Slater just hitting that red armor. We heard his armor charge right there. We are going to opt for the slow heal as well. It looks like his teammate is going to be able to use a battery here. Not entirely sure what the heal situation looks like for Team HRV, but they are aware that there's a team in the RV right in front of them. They're going to be looking to take them out because they are pinched between a team and another team on the left-hand side of them in the choke here. So the battle is probably going to slow down. Players and teams are going to go for a reset here before they opt to ape any players. Now, I don't know where that final zone is, but unfortunately, that team that backed off of Godrock and took that choke on the left-hand side towards Thermal is actually in the best position than any other team is right now because they have a singular choke point to force all these teams through. So one team's going to have to fight their way through this whole series of fights and bombardments, and I believe one team is actually trapped below and will need to octane pad upwards. This is a very fortunate turn of events for that team in the left-hand choke.
Yeah, absolutely. I cannot think of a worse situation to be in if you're Team HRV right now. You have great guns, you have great shield, but there's no way to get to that circle. You have to fight your way through, and everybody else is fighting their way to that choke. So that is that RNG, that is that zone RNG we talked about. You know, there's one choke. It's kind of like the 300 Spartans at the Battle of Thermopylae. You know, they have one angle to watch, and that's all they have to be worried about. I also wanted to say during those scraps, we did see our lone player on Team No Way being taken out. They were taking storm damage. They got shot, so they were taken out in that squab also. But this choke point is just absolutely brutal. This team set up inside of the choke is just in the absolute best position. If I'm them, I'm waiting for these teams to scrap, and I'm just holding my ground, holding my circle. There's no way for them to go. It's going to be literally fish in a barrel. As we're seeing Devil Lord taking massive damage. Blue Wizard doing everything they can to not take storm damage, try to get to this choke. The storm is closing quickly.
It looks like a couple of these players are opting to take some thirst on the kills rather than go for an actual finish there because they were able at least to get a couple kills here. Now, unfortunately for this team that's in the choke, or fortunately rather for them, there is going to be a bunch of down players as well. And if you're able to get an extra thirst on that, if a player is still alive from a kill from an opposing team, you're going to walk away with an extra series of kills there. So I'd like to see them go for the thirst. That Seer's going to fall, and Nitro Panthers down but not out. I said it when they were in 6th place that rotation could have either been very punishing or very good, and it looks like they got that lucky side of that 2-sided coin right there. So fantastic showing out of Nitro Panthers. I'm willing to bet, Nate, I'm not a betting man in most cases. I don't think they knew. I think that was a lot of skill and a little bit of luck coupled together. I think they had the Master Chief luck right in there. For those of you that are Halo players, I mean, you got the skill to back it up, but you got a little extra wink, wink, nudge, nudge, and that positioned them to be in a very, very good place. So great gun skill, great awareness. I would have hoped to see a couple thirsts. I'm not sure if they were able to thirst a couple of the downed players that were in that 3rd place crawling through the smoke, because that could have awarded them an extra couple of kills. And we're halfway through, Nate. Nitro Panthers, amazing showing. We haven't seen one team win multiple games in a row. But now that we're halfway through, I didn't see Nitro Panthers performing that strong in the previous game. So they're going to need a lot if they're going to try to opt for that top 1, 2, 3.
Well, those placement points that they've just earned is absolutely massive. Like you said, a little bit of the wink, wink, nudge, nudge luck, but that they were set up so perfectly. They knew they didn't have to leave where they were. These players have to come to us. This is that like rotational battle royale kind of strategy coming into play. You know, if you're playing Circle, they have to come to us after a certain point. You know, like there's no reason to go risk an unnecessary engagement. They have to come to us. We're in the Circle. They are not. And case in point, they were able to just fire down that one lane. That's all they had to worry about. There was one little rock for those players to try to hide behind. So if they wanted to make anything happen, they would have to aggressively push into that choke that was established naturally by the cliffs and the zone. So, I mean, they played it by the book. They did what they had to do. They came out the victors. They earned themselves those placement points. Those placement points can be a massive swing, as we are kind of starting to see the ranking of the players, you know, after this 3rd game. It's getting shook up. I Team No Way, you know, I believe fell 5th place fourth place. I'm not sure how many kills they have,
Mhm.
but that one player was hanging on for dear life. So we're going to see Team No Way probably drop a couple placement points. We're going to see Team SPC drop a couple placement points. You know, so I'm very excited to see what the current rankings are after that third game, because every game has just been so drastically different. You know, you think one team's going to be the powerhouse, and you've got a player that you think is going to be this, you know, the champions, and
The
then
hero.
they're taken out. Yeah, the heroes are dethroned, and you know, it all comes with the territory. A little bit of bad luck, a little bit of good luck. I feel
It's
like
the RNG.
yeah, it's the RNG. I feel like you usually want to be the team third party, and you never really want to start these engagements. And sometimes you have to, sometimes you can't help it. And it's just been great Apex so far today. It's pretty exciting.
I agree 100%. I want to make one criticism for kind of all of those top 4 orbiting teams outside of the team that won there. Had those teams not chosen to ape with all of their ultimates, that first place team was screwed. They
Yeah.
had literally no cover. They did have a Gibraltar, so the Gibraltar could have bubbled. But if you were one of the teams ulting and you could have just pushed the left or the right hand side of that rock right there, I mean, an Octane Pad and a Gibby ult and a Dream, and you definitely could have gotten yourself a little bit further than you did. Now, one of the things important to note, and actually I was using it, I used it to get into my Masters game yesterday. I just broke out a Diamond 1 into Masters. Pathfinder Zips and Octane Pads, you don't get hit by Gibraltar ults in the air. There's no actual collision with a Gibby ult. So the way the game articulates that damage is a splash damage based on the red indicator on the ground. So if you're airborne, you're fine. So those teams, like an Octane Pad for that team that was trapped behind the truck going over the truck, it would have been wild. It would have been unorthodox, would have been clutch. That could have potentially gotten you over that vehicle and around that bend, at least to net you another series of placement points outside of that top 4. Place that with a Gibby ult on that team in the back, and maybe you got a recipe for an Apex upset. But I think regardless, of course, all of our top 4 teams fought so hard to be there. Even our 5th with Potsy and his team unfortunately got trapped. There was actually a death box that killed those players. I don't know if you got to see that, Nate. Inside that base, a Gibraltar had died on the porch and trapped the Octane inside. He couldn't get over the death box in terms of mobility. So he did burn to death in the zone, unfortunately.
You know, I played a bunch of Overwatch, and something you said rings true in Overwatch, and it rings true in Apex, and it's the timing of ultimates. It's the timing of your utility. You know, sometimes people just shoot. Sometimes Apex turns into this, well, I'm just going to shoot my gun, and you're going to shoot your gun, and that's all fine and dandy, and we're just going to outshoot each other. But these player abilities really can turn an entire situation into a winning situation. You know, you could just like you said, you know, if you're a Valk, you could just fly out of there and get away and live a little bit longer. You know, the timing of the ults definitely has to be something that's more on the forefront of the mind than okay, oh, we just used it, let's go. You know, I think especially towards late game, excuse me, you really have to be conscious of when you're using your ult, and even stalling to regenerate your ults could be a make or break for these players.
I absolutely agree. And guys, that was a huge game from the Panthers team. I believe that's going to be referred to as Nitro Panthers, NTRO Panthers. And guys, we're going to be going to a quick break. We're going to take our fiver like we traditionally do. We're going to be headed into game number 4. So guys, half of the gauntlet is already over. We saw the shakeups. No singular team has been able to win back-to-back or even consistent games. No singular team has won multiple games. We're seeing a couple groups orbit that top 5, top 8. But guys, I mean, that's not going to get you in the payout, really. I mean, you gotta aim higher.
Do you think we'll see it? Do you think we'll see teams win consecutive games? Not consecutive necessarily, but do you think we're going to have multiple first place winners? You know, because I think with those placement points, if you win first place twice, I really feel like that will set you up to win the whole event. You know, do you think it will happen? Do you think we'll see a team win twice or 3 times?
I could see a No Way. I could see a team No Way. I could see team 25. I think that kind of might be it, but Nate, I'll leave that actually up to the story of the game. I am going to go ahead and cut to our break here, guys. We are going to be back in game number 4 after a 5-minute intermission. Excuse me, Nate and I will be right back with you. Don't you lovely folks go anywhere. Ladies and gentlemen, we keep saying a brief break, and a brief break it is. I believe that was right on that 5-minute mark once again. We're going to be headed into game number 4 of the Console Gaming League Summer Series. I am your host, Dragonite. I'm joined by Nate Dog, Tenacious Nacho, and we are going to be having some scoreboard updates from the production team. So very shortly, we'll be able to get some numbers on the screen for you lovely folks. But Nate had asked me a question right before we jumped to the break, and I was able to give it a little bit of thought. little bit of extra thought here, and I want to double down on my thoughts there. I had said that I was thinking 25 esports and no way could win some back-to-back games here. But look at that, Nate. What team is that in second place? What team
Vittori.
is that? Did we see that coming?
Based off that first game, I'm not surprised at all. We did see them in game 1 and game 2 playing pretty consistently. 29 points, only 6 points behind 25 esports. If they drop a game, that's going to give, Team No Way, there's only a couple of 8 points separating third from first. Both of them, Team Vittori and Team No Way, have a great opportunity if 25 esports gets shut down to seize that first place slot. But let's also look at the middle of the pack right now. Team Panthers, Nitro Panthers, who just won the last game, Slow Gaming, SBC Chicken, and NEL Ravens. They're all within 1 point of each other. If any of those teams in the middle have a good game, it's going to skyrocket them all the way to the top. Especially at the expense of one of these top squads. If you're Team SPC and you wipe out Team No Way, boom, you've got those points. They're out of it. They can't get as many points, 25, Vittori, and No Way are all going to have to play safe, smart, and they're going to have to get some kills if they want to defend their first, second, and third placements right now.
I agree 100%. One of the things to note here, again, we had talked about teams that were going to be winning back-to-back and different placements and points and values and things that teams are having. That 25 esports, Nate, they got 15 kills game number 1. You know how many kills they're at right now? 17. Okay, we're headed into game number 4, and they got 2 kills. Now, again, the placement points, obviously having that pop-off game can be enough to skyrocket you to success, but that's a pretty big discrepancy between back-to-back games. That could spell some defeat if we're going to keep seeing them. Congratulations, you broke top 10 and you got 1 KP. That's not first place material.
Yeah, they really have to bring it these next couple games. Was it a lucky first game? Were they just, I don't know, is it nerves? Are they dropping hot? Are they getting over challenging their fights because they won the first game and they're feeling a little too confident? I'm not really sure. But like you said, man, that first place game put them in such a strong, definitive first place that they've been able to kind of eke by these next couple games. I definitely wouldn't count them out. If they have another good game, it doesn't even have to be a pop-off game. If they have another top 3 placement game, that's great. It's going to give them those points that they need. And, every squad you wipe, every kill point you get is another team that's not going to be able to get those placement points. So it's kind of like defending your title, almost like King of the Hill. You got to push them down off of the hill and try to make sure that you're the one staying on top. Play slow, play patient. That's I think the key here for them is just to start playing for placement, because 2 kills in 2 games is not very good. 15 in the first game is great, but 2 kills in 2 games is not great. So they're maybe just, slow it down a little bit, play a little more reserve play. That's what I would be trying to do. Play for placement at this point in the match, because they're still in the first place. They have an 8-point lead on second place, I believe, a 6-point lead on second place. And, at this point, play for placement. You don't really need to get in these engagements. It's 13 points for first place. If you can get that
12,
first,
yep.
12, yeah. So that is a substantial amount of points. You don't even really have to be fighting for kills at this point. They do help towards that total, but placement, I think, is going to be the determining factor in these next games. I think the teams who place higher are going to win, and that's how it goes, right? On paper, it sounds so basic, but I think maybe playing for kills is almost detrimental, especially because we're in a third-party meta with these battle royales. You never want to really be starting engagements, because the bullets are going to draw somebody else, and that other squad's going to swoop in. Both squads are going to be weak, and then 6 kills are on the table for that full health squad who's joining the fight late.
Absolutely. That's definitely an important thing to note, and you almost can't risk that at this point. That's exactly what you're saying. I think was that these teams don't necessarily need to be in some of these engagements, considering that they've already set themselves up for some form of metered success. You need to be trying to play the late game rather than the early game, because those singular kill points are great. And like you had said, the middle of the pack is separated by 1, 2, 3 kill points. The upper portion of the pack is not really that far apart either. I think we have 35, 29, and 27, I think, is our top 3. So one upset could absolutely shake this up, and we've had a couple teams place very consistently. I would love to see Team Vittori usurp our 25 esports as that first place roster here, but I'm yet to see if that's going to happen here. Now, it looks like we do have a team, maybe two, landing at the Climatizer. We're going to be looking down at a team that may have gone Overlook as well. It looks like a couple teams are consistently landing at the same POIs, and I think, unfortunately, this team was not yet blessed with a beacon, but they were blessed with a crafter, which arguably can be better in some circumstances. If you have, for whatever reason, for tier loot, you are able to at least craft that armor up another tier. But we do see that player coming out, and he is going to be hitting the crafting juice jar right there as he enters into another house here. Curious to see if any teams change their POI drops, or if we're going to see any other teams 50-50, but I'm willing to bet these teams may play it a little safer in games 4 and 5, and we might see an incredibly aggressive game number 6.
You know, Apex is a game of scavenging. It's not just shooting, it's not just circle. It's you gotta scavenge, you gotta find stuff. And I think those crafters are great because you can upgrade your weapons, you can buy yourself ammo. You know, what happens if I've got my favorite gun in the game and it's kitted out, but I've got a clip and a half, right? You can't really have those bullets be wasted in these long-range engagements. You know, you don't have the bullets to waste. So I think the crafting just allows a great opportunity to set your team up for more success. You know, you're going to have better guns, you're going to have better gear, you might have more bullets. It's just a smart play to be using the crafting stations, especially early like this. If you know there's no other squads on you, you have all the time in the world to craft. As we're looking at Team 12 here, they're kind of far from zone. You know, they're by the crafters. Use them. They're there. Why not use them?
I agree 100%. It looks like we definitely have some good meds in the hand at Team 12 and that player Slater. That's going to be Devil Lord and his teammate as well. Now, that's not Bangalore, so we are consistently staying on the bang. Again, I think you were exactly right about some of the versatility we could have from a Bangalore, but interestingly enough, we do see an Octane Pad team coming in. The Octane Pad was taken by the Seer. We see him ragdolling across the map. Unfortunately, that Gibraltar is going to be down below, trying to take on some fights. 57 is going to be a little bit less health, but Chifuyu is going to be able to walk behind and able to take this player out. That's going to be FaZe Devil, who's going to be falling in, I believe, that 3v1, but it looks like another party is going to be showing up as well. We see the Gibraltar come from top down. Chifuya, there was going to be a Thirst in there as well. X57 was able to get that kill on a Sino right there, and we do see one player backing off. He is going to be on height. I think this is going to be the Gibraltar that was looking over the top of the alcove here. The Arcstar is going to be coming in, and not really too much avail here. You might see this Gibraltar opt for that armor swap up there, but that may have been what he was pushing for originally anyway, but bam, he is out, and that's going to be Stank falling right off of the rip. So I believe one of the teams, I believe that was our 25 esports from the previous matchup. I believe they're already down and out.
You know, Shifuya there did a great job. He was stuck on this canister with low ground, and he managed to like reduce the damage he was taking by wisely taking cover. He managed to pull off the heal while his teammates pushed that one Gibraltar back, and they were just able to push in and clean him up like confidently. You know, that one player is probably not going to win the 1v3, especially when they're trapped in a house like that. So just really smart movement and game sense from Shifuya. You know, got the heal off, pushed the player, full health, stayed alive. That's what you want to be seeing right now.
Absolutely, and that's so important. I see a lot of players aim to finish a fight very quickly. If you've trapped a player in a house, let that player full heal, because your squad full healed is going to be so much more capable of taking on a third-party fight, rather than getting one singular kill, having everybody be effectively naked, and then some dude getting a lucky Arcstar and wiping your entire squad. So that is something I think very important to note, and I really want to echo what you had said there from Shifuya, from that player that opted to heal rather than just fully ape that gunfight. I think he may have actually armor swapped off that, which of course we want to see that anyway. Which is, of course, is very smart. And for those of you that are in the chat, I would assume that most folks watching competitive Apex are familiar with most of there, but an armor swap just refers to taking a full healed armor off of the body of a player that you've killed or downed, or finding some kind of swap on the ground, and being able to do that rather than spending your time or your heal economy using a heal here. We are swapping onto our team No Way FKB that I believe was bumped into third place, if I'm not mistaken, Nate. Team Vittori is going to be in second, and our 25 esports is still narrowly in first place, but most likely not after this game here, unfortunately. But No Way, we're going to be on the POV of the Octane. That's going to be Franz. I believe that was going to be a CRQ on his left-hand side, and we do hear his Gibraltar indicating there's a team rotating towards this this jump tower right here. We're going to see the Wraith Q out of that engagement, and they are fully committed to this gunfight. The Octane Pad is out, a PK is charged, the Wraith Portal is there, and that was a one-tap on the downed player. The Wraith is going to fall as well, and No Way just needs to make sure that they stay alive. Calling out to that Gibraltar, I'm sure we would hear a frenzy, bub me, bub me, bub me, and they did just that, and that player is going to be able to heal and fight against that caustic gas that is quickly going to disperse as they were able to finish that downed player. That's a very, very good start for Team No Way, especially considering that one of the other top 3 teams has already been taken out of this match.
You know, I don't want to call Team No Way underdogs because in no shape or form are they underdogs, but they're definitely the team I'm rooting for at this point. I have just been so impressed with, I mean, we saw a great push from that Octane. Their Gibraltar player, Zypier, has been pulling off crazy plays in all of these games, you know, just great game sense. I love how that team just collapsed. I love, I mean, that Octane was hitting shots. I confidently pushed, flew in almost fearlessly. And you know, they all skated out. Nobody got knocked. Nobody got downed. It was just clean. It was clean execution. And I've just been really impressed with how Team No Way is playing as a unit.
I agree, and that was some chunky PK shots from that Octane. I believe that first one was an 88 body shot, and I believe he also got an 80-something on that Wraith as well. We saw him accidentally get that Thirst trying to kill the Wraith, which was, I mean, neither good nor bad. A little, you definitely want to be fighting the player that's alive rather than a downed guy, but I appreciate that it didn't let that player that they knocked get back through that portal, so they would have had to retreat to get that loot, because that's one of the worst ones. When a downed player gets through the Wraith portal, you wipe the team, you go to get the loot on the other end of the portal, and it destabilizes, so now you're entirely cut off from your team. So you may have even been better off not opting to go take that loot. So that was a very fortunate series of things there. That is going to be Poca on top of the roof, though. We are right outside of the Lava Siphon here. We're looking at a team that is going to be coming from the Geyser area. They are on the house, the Hill House up top there, across from the Lava Siphon here, looking at another team in Geyser. So we've got quite a few teams kind of orbiting this little area here. I believe that is 5 full rosters of teams that are going to be in this area of our top 12. Now we see 2 skirmishing in Geyser. We have the Hill House team looking at this other one. And I think another team is going to be rotating from Harvester. That is going to be our Zypier, Crypto, and their 3rd player team. I believe that's going to be Team No Way that is going to be opting to try to challenge this team. It is going to be in the 2-story. They're going to move past the Dorito here, and they are going to be rotating off of the garage house across past that bridge potentially. But of course, you have the Gibraltar, and he's got height. The opposing team does have a house. That unfortunately, this is Team SPC, and we do see that Viet still has white armor. Now, he's only got to farm 30 damage off of this. You might even want to toss his white armor to your Gibraltar, have him pick a scout shot, and just get you a little bit of damage here, so you can make sure that Octane has that extra 25 health here. But it doesn't look like Team No Way is in any way scared. They said, "Are you scared to make this challenge here?" And he says, "No way." That Octane pad is fully charged, as Seer Q is out. We may end up seeing them fully ape this team on the Hill House, and it looks like the Hill House team is actually maybe aping them. I believe we did see a player jump out of that. That may have been an Octane. Maybe that spectator from right there, but No Way is going to be beaming. We have considerable damage onto that player on the roof. I think that's at Gibraltar. We broke the gun shield and 50 health there. So Nate, I mean, I think the confidence from No Way here. Are you seeing anything that makes it look like No Way is going to lose this engagement?
No, nothing. They're playing clean. They're hitting shots. They're playing confidently. I don't think they're over challenging, but like in this situation, I believe we have like 4 squads within 200 meters of each other. So it's kind of one of those things. I'm thinking, what do you do? Like, you know, as soon as you start fighting, you know, all the other heads are going to be looking to try to steal kills to third party. But this is actually could potentially be a 4th party situation. Team No Way just doing great chip damage, keeping that team trapped in that house. And, you know, they actually have good cover if they want to escape. As you see behind them on the minimap, they have that little channel they can run behind and get around those cliffs to get out and escape. There's a Halo player by the name of Zyos that said, never get yourself into a situation that you don't have 2 ways out of. And I think that's ringing completely true right now. You know, you got to be considerate of like, where can you get to if things go poorly? And I think right now they're just in a great spot to not only do damage, but they also have an escape route and they have good angles on the other squad. So I think they're just set up very, very well at the moment. And like you said,
oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, Nate.
Oh, I was going to say, it looks like they're dropping their armor for the Gibraltar to farm damage, but I could be wrong here as we do see 2 of the players on Team No Way without armor and only the Gibraltar with armor. So I'm not sure if they're setting up for an armor swap or if they're trying to let the Gibraltar farm damage.
So that was where I was actually going with that comment when I saw that armor here. So this is something that's kind of a throwback to Season 6 Crypto, when we saw Crypto played a lot in the meta for just a little period of time there. Crypto wasn't able to do any damage to armors on the ground. So very similar in that regard is Seer. Seer is able to do 10 damage, whether it's health or armor, onto a player. So what those players are doing is dropping their armor so it does directly health damage. So A, Seer's not able to see what armor they would have at that given moment. And B, that's going to do direct health damage, which indicates to me that they have a lot of white meds, but maybe not a lot of shield meds that they're trying to conserve. As well as when you're fighting an Octane who has that passive heal over time. So that Octane is going to be able to heal his health, but not his shields like a Watson would as their passive. So that was a pretty smart series of plays that we saw out of them. A little bit overzealous sometimes because a well-placed grenade can absolutely melt a team that's just sitting there with 100 health. But that was a relatively big brain play. Now, this is another team that was pretty interesting. This is that X57. We did see this team rotate behind around Harvester. So while these two teams are in these buildings, one team to the left of the Dorito and one team in the Hill House, this team has now occupied the garage. They took the redeploy beacon over at Harvester when they heard these gunshots and opted to come in. So Nathan, you had said there were like 3 or 4 teams in 200 meters. I think there's seriously 5 to 6 teams within 200 meters here. So we're going to see a lot of these players orbit this lava siphon area. You usually have a beacon, quite a few respawn beacons as well. So you can get some info, you can get your players back in. You have a lot of top-down cover. The loot density is very big. I mean, this is a very hot portion of the map, no matter what area you drop in. You pretty consistently see fights here or inside Fragment. And so this is definitely a big place to be. I'd like to see that Gibraltar maybe stock up and take that ult excel so they could get ready to get another Gibraltar ult there. I'm not entirely sure if we're going to see that, but it looks like some shots are going to be coming in from the Hill House and some beautiful tracking on the crypto drone that is going to be placed outside there as well. So that's going to put a cooldown on the ability for that crypto to do a little bit of his detection work.
So we're seeing a much slower paced game than we've seen even the last 2 games. Last game we saw a very explosive game. Squads were kind of just going at it, you know. We're back to that long range like chip shotty. Everybody playing for placement right now. Nobody wants to be the squad to get knocked. We do have 11 squads left in this match, which is kind of a lot for how, you know, ring 2 closing right now. So we're on our 3rd ring and we still have 11 squads and they're all close to each other. I almost feel like the best thing to do would be to almost hide out and try to play for placement, because we're going to see once one squad starts fighting, we're going to see many squads start to engage, and we're going to see squads dropping like flies. And a few moments here, I have zero doubt there's really not that many places to hide in this circle. The circle's getting so small. There's really, it's coming down to the wire where there's nothing left to do but fight.
So I would love to stay on the POV of this ROD Russo here for just a moment. He's got a Kraber in hand, and now the Kraber's a pretty interesting one because between PC players and controller players, it's very hard to decide who you want to have the Kraber, right? Because you look at a Snipedown, and Snipedown's just an absolute menace, and then you can look at like a Mandy, who's an absolute menace with the Kraber, Shiv, right? A Diff-Q. I mean, you've got all of these different players from across the different locations playing in different ways with those weapons. It looks like we're going for that thirst on the Octane that was knocked very, very over-eagerly challenging between those two huts, and unfortunately he was down, but it looks like that Octane pad may have been a saving grace right there. Bubble, excuse me, is going to come into play, and it looks like Skies is going to be able to get that res off. We do see him full shield here, but Signy closing the gap, not taking any scout damage from the oncoming team. Sky trying to force himself into a fight, but he's quickly going to get melted because he's caught between 2 separate players. He's able to jump backwards. We do see that 3rd team is on the top of the lava siphon base, is probably going to make a play here. That Gibraltar running just a wing and a prayer right there, but unfortunately he's trapped, and another team is coming in as well. We do see the 3rd of the 3rd party coming in. Nate, exactly as you had said, 1 or 2, 3 teams were going to start fighting here, and it was going to become mayhem, and it is exactly that. Francis Sinatra, though, our Octane, who has been in and out of separate engagements, maybe at the detriment to his team. I don't like that I always see him being the player that's getting out, maybe related to him being an Octane and having the ability to get out, but I do feel like his team is often kind of winging a prayer left behind, and he is just left to rat. So whether that's as his team wasn't able to fight at his standard, or whether he just kind of left them a little high and dry, I'm not yet sure. We do see his teammate for the first time, Twitch Fusion, is potentially going to get out of there, and they at least have an existing 2-man.
Well, just like you said, Octane is able to get out, but like you said, this is a team game, and a lot of FPS titles, you need that extra person laying down damage. You even need that extra person to kind of be taking damage. Whereas if, the enemy team's only shooting at 2 people, that's less health. Those 2 people are going to get knocked faster if you're just not there helping. And you sometimes even just taking damage is enough to give your team an edge. It's another player to look at. It's another player to distract. It can enable your team to, have a player pop out while they're distracted shooting at somebody else. We have seen this Octane die. Maybe it was a bad situation and the Octane news like, hey, we're not winning this. We've got a knock already. Both of them were able to get out, which is great, so they can continue to play for placement, but they are at now a player disadvantage. Like you said, I'm starting to kind of wonder. We have seen this player alone for most of the game.
4 times?
Yeah, maybe they have good game sense and just know, like, hey, this is a losing scrap. I got to get out of here. Or, maybe it's to the detriment of their team, like you said. It's tough to say. I'm not in the shoes of the player. I'm not quite seeing, the exact engagements. But what I do see is an Octane who's always hightailing it out of there.
Absolutely, and we don't know. That's exactly right. I mean, not to make fun of a player or mock a player or give any extra criticism that isn't strictly game related. We don't know that Gibraltar didn't get knocked and thirsted and scream, get out, I'm downed, right? Like, play your life. is a terminology you'll hear in Overwatch, you hear it in Halo, you hear it in Apex a lot. Just play your life, which just means whatever you got to do, I'll be the scapegoat. They can thirst me, they can knock me. Use me as leverage, effectively. And we're gonna see another care pack, and I believe that's gonna be a Spitfire here. Interestingly enough, the Octane did not opt to switch for that. I'm curious to see if another player is going to rotate. It looks like they are. The Seer is going to rotate for that pickup there. But of course, we have a couple teams fighting at the Harvester here. And again, our absolutely fantastic observers are going to watch as we are about to see a choke point in there. It looks like those two players fighting in the Snake. Those two teams are going to start fighting, but we do see another team as well. Look at that. Rainbow Ape. This is going to be our team with the man down. So Rainbow Ape is a roster of 3 player that's going to be Pew Ape and their third, fighting this 2-man between the Octane and the Seer. The pad is going to happen, but unfortunately, they're going to fly right into our Kraber team of ROD. That's going to be Chifuya, Fusion, and their third as well, X57. So you've got quite a few different players rotating around in a very, very small area. They were locked outside of the base, and this is what you see in some often high-tier Apex. I mean, you can see 4 Caustics in one building, everybody sharing 1/3 of a hotel room, no one willing to peek until we're literally in zone 6. So that is definitely potentially something we're going to see here. Francis Sinatra, though, of course, that Seer ult is going to come into play. I believe that's Fusion's ult. So they're keeping complete visibility on all the players that are orbiting this area, but no other team that's orbiting in the area knows what Seer ult this is or how many teams there are really going to be, because that was 1 Seer Q on 2 players and 1 Seer ult on like 70. So all of these teams are nervous because no one can really conclusively prove who or what is doing what where. So there is a lot of guesswork still employed here, and we are still seeing top 10, but right now Chifuya was able to get that knock on the Seer of Fusion TV.
Great sentinel damage. I just wanted to piggyback off of that, man. Francis Sinatra saved his partner in that play. We saw it happen. They launched out of there, and then I love that they didn't rush the team that was meeting in the building. They're like, okay, this is a 3-stack. We're losing this. They opted to not engage, and the other team, like you said, they didn't want to engage. They didn't want to risk getting knocked. They didn't want to risk getting third-party or killed. So I just love that we're starting to see people play their lives more conservatively now, as I feel like in the first couple matches, players are more willing to go scrap. We have some players starting to fight here. Looks like it's SPC.
There's our Bangalore. Devil Lord.
Oh man, VHG is taking some storm damage.
That's what I was going to say. It looks like a little storm damage in the top of that building is going to come into play, but Devil Lord, his team was able to thirst, and they were able to get the armor swap for Devil Lord right there, but I kind of wish Devil might have been in that engagement a little bit faster. They may have been able to wipe that team a little bit earlier, but it looks like Denox is going to be absolutely melted inside, though. Slater is going to be alive as well outside. There's only 2 players from this roster still alive, and unfortunately, Zapier is going to go down strictly to zone damage, but they are safely inside of the base here, so they are going to have to be taking some zone damage in order to get through here. Now, he's going to be holding the door and feathering into that zone damage, but Crypto cannot afford to be doing that, because one more tick on that zone damage would have knocked that player. And we do, of course, the zone will only take your health damage, so even full shields will not stop you from whatever damage that was going to be. Now, that's Viet Chi. I believe, Nate, you had said that was Team SCP, if I'm not mistaken, that had Viet Chi on it as well. And we are going to see X57 and the ROD roster that is still a Kraber in tow is going to be sitting on the opposing side of one of the garage bases here, and it looks like they are going to be pushing for just skirmish with Shadowcat, Fezzle, and Salem, though, in a gunfight. But as I say it, we pivot to Salem, and the flatline Beamerson is fully employed right there, going for the thirst. We've got Flesh on another player. You see the rapid pings, and he's honestly hoping that one of these opposing teams is even going to get a knock so he can get the kill confirmation on his players.
You know, 25 Esports is looking pretty good right now. We do see that we've got, I believe it says 3 kills just on Salem. You know, this is what we were talking about. They have to get kills and they have to play for placement. But, you know, I'm starting to think that these teams have played for placement a little too long. I feel like, you know, it may have been better to force fights. You know, now we have 6 squads in such a small zone. It creates chaos. It creates uncertainty almost. You know, it allows for teams to maybe flying under the radar to eke out a first place just by the chaos. So I'm starting to think that maybe players played a little too passively. Team No Way seems to be set up pretty well with the high ground here.
And this is a tough fight because you've got players on all sides, right? So Team No Way is maybe going to get hit by that Bangalore ult. It looks like they are. They should be able to drop onto the back of the balcony right there. They may even tank the Bangalore ult damage on purpose just to not have to give up height advantage. And it looks like they're going to be staying safe. But there is that team. Shadowcat is going to be behind them directly. I believe that is Team 25 Esports. if I'm not mistaken. They're going to be doing great aim damage with that R301, even on a 3x. So that's incredible stability from a player that's able to use an R301 with that kind of recoil at that distance. Now that Seer, again, we got a couple headshots. They are fully sending in with the Octane pad here. They're going to be challenging the Gibraltar bubble, but Shadowcat struggling to get in that engagement. And unfortunately, he's not going to make it up. Not able to help his team, which may end up costing them an engagement there. Gibraltar, though, he was still alive. We did see that entire team full health, full shields. I believe they were able to thirst a player. Shadowcat looks like he did get the final confirmation on Kappa Lifa there as well. So we see Exodia below. That's going to be NML, which has not been performing very well. I believe they genuinely are in 10th place. Maybe 11th right now, but that 25 Esports able to confirm another series of kills, Blue Wizard and Rainbow Ape against ROD Chifuya. Now, we haven't seen that Kraber come into play, but there is a player down for Team ROD. Things aren't looking great, Nate.
Great damage, 115 damage from Shadowcat onto this player challenging. I didn't like the drop, but unfortunately, he's got that Gibraltar bubble. He's going to be able to get this shield off, it looks like. They just need to stay alive here. They have high ground. They need to live. They need to live. They don't need to be scrapping. They can let these other two squads fight.
I think a call-out may have come in that I've got them all down except one. We do see Chifuya able to survive a little bit at the outside of the corner there. He's got that gold armor too, so he can go ahead and try to heal. This is going to be a 2v1 situation. They may be pushing. It looks like their player was entirely thirsted. It looks like he was able to get the res onto Russo. Russo's not going to be able to survive. He may narrowly make it through this engagement. This may all of a sudden be a 2v3 situation or a 2v2 situation. 25 Esports versus ROD. The double shields are coming into play. That player is trying to heal behind it. Seems like huge. And it looks like Shadowcat and his teammate are going to be able to push very, very aggressively right here. And 25 Esports, I called it, Nate. I said 2 wins from 25 Esports. We said they needed a big game, and they showed up for the broadcast.
Well played from 25 Esports. I'm so stoked to see them take first place for the second time, especially after having a couple rough games there. It's great to see these guys back on top. They were getting kills. They were playing well. They were doing what they needed to do. I loved at the end they didn't overly aggressively push that team. Okay, this team's stuck on a wall. They can't move. We can take our time with this. And we even saw that Octane pad there, and I was thinking like, oh, take the Octane pad and get ahead of him. And I love that he didn't do that. And this just goes to show the difference of thought process. He stayed down with his teammates and just laid fire on these guys, where I, as a Halo player, may have jumped up on top. And that may have allowed the other team to, take out some more damage, because then you have one less gun raining down this fire, but just very, very, very well done from 25 Esports. I'm stoked to see them win a game, especially so dominating like we saw them. I mean, they fought from low ground, regained high ground, wiped the squad low ground, healed up, got the last squad down. It was just very, very, very well, dare I say, methodical gameplay. This is another day at the office for these guys. They were confident. They were moving well. I also want to give a nod to Team No Way, who they scrapped it out. They were playing smart. They were playing great. We saw a lot of screen time from them. Dude, these guys are duking it out right now. Head to head, these guys are realizing that there's only a couple games left, and they got to make it happen if it's going to happen. If they want to win, they got to make it happen, and now's the time, because you're running out of games.
I agree. And I almost agree with the verticality comment that you had made as well. I think with another character, that verticality may have been great, an Octane, or some player that could have gotten up on height and gotten a little versatility there, and then been able to get back down and revert to kind of an up-down height. I would like a Pathfinder in that engagement, but that Gibraltar bubble could come into very big play, and it was actually great. He was able to thirst a Seer, get an armor swap. We saw a consistent series of fights. But guys, these players want to get into another series of games. We want to get into our game number 5. Nate and I are ready to bring you more back-to-back action. We have replays rigged for you. We will be right back with the Console Gaming League Summer Series. We're headed into game number 5. We will see you folks very soon. All right, guys, we are back with the Console Gaming League Summer Series, and we're headed into, Nate, correct me if I'm mistaken, game number 5, if I'm correct right there. So we've got just one more game following this one for these teams to close out and get all of their score reporting and everything done. But 25 Esports, my God, I had said that there may have been a comeback, but let's just talk about who's getting second, because I think 25 Esports has decided they want the cash prize and they want to go home with a victory. They are looking for the cash that they are going to earn on that 28. They want to not only win the open pool play, or rather the cutting down the trimming pool play, but it looks like they're gunning for the entire rest of the tournament. 25 Esports, Nate. What's your observation on this leaderboard?
Did they have another 15 kill game? I think they did. I think that's two first place 15 kill games out of 25 Esports. As we saw, they did have a rough couple games in the middle chunk of games, but boom, 15 kills, as they had 17 kills before this match. So, okay, that's basic math. Okay, 32 kills. That's massive. Also, their second first place. I mean, they are now a massive amount of points ahead of second place, which is Team No Way. I want to give a big shout out to Shadowcat, the Gibraltar player on 25 Esports. Just great damage. We saw in that highlight reel. He was completely pinned, had the low ground. This Octane player had the drop on him, and he ripped out 115 damage on this player and managed to keep himself alive by putting down that damage. So just shooting great under pressure, really making the plays happen.
Absolutely. I mean, there's no question on a testament to skill from those players. We had talked right before the break about some verticality, where you had suggested that Gibraltar went up. I actually agree with that play. Not with a Gibraltar. I would agree with that with any like a Valkyrie or a Pathfinder, maybe an Octane, some kind of a mobility legend. Because I agree, raining down fire from up top would protect you. Considering that there was only one player to your left, one player below you. But that Gibraltar being there to dome for himself and his teammate was kind of intrinsic in them walking out with him not getting knocked right there. And so that's one of my favorite sayings. For those of you in the chat, of course, I compete at a relatively high tier in Apex as well. I'm in Masters currently, and Nate competes in a very high tier in Halo and some other titles. One of our favorite jokes is we are behind the desk and they are on the sticks for a reason. And that is exactly why. That Gibraltar had the foresight and the gun skill coupled together to make just a very impactful series of plays right there. I also loved the 7 pump on that Gibraltar. He was trying to catch him while he was armor swapping because that player was aware of that death box that was right there. I mean, again, talk about the foresight. The guy was trying to pump him because a controller armor swap makes you immobile. So, I mean, just so much knowledge right there.
Well, I mean, Gibraltar's, he's the shield character, right? He's the hunker down and shoot back character. And I just think they're doing a great job of playing the legends exactly how they're supposed to. I mean, and that's what he did. He hunkered down. He didn't try to run away. He hunkered down and shot back, and it just played out for Team 25 Esports. I well done. Hats off to you guys. That was an incredible showing in game number 4 there.
Now, Nate, here's a really tough question. Because you poised one and said, can any team take back-to-back victories or consecutive victories? And I said, yeah, I think probably 25 Esports. Do you think a team can usurp this throne? I mean, if you're gonna hit the king, you got to kill the king. So they gotta take out 25 Esports.
Even if 25 Esports gets taken out in this game 5, they could still have a great game 6 and win. They have such a padded lead. It's going to be very difficult. I could see Team No Way doing it. They have to have a good kill game. I would like to see them have like a 7 to 10 kill game and take first place. And I think that is the only way. They would also have to play very well in the game 6. But if any team's going to usurp 25 Esports, they have to do it now. Game 5 is the time. They don't have any more time. You need the points. You're behind. You got to have a good kill game. You got to be moving with purpose. You got to be getting the slays. You got to be staying alive. There's no more time to waste. This is game 5. So if you're going to do it, you probably have to tie 25 Esports now and then win the last game. So these players definitely have the work cut out for them if they're going to kill the king.
I agree. And that's one of those perfect storm kind of scenarios. I think you're exactly right. Where not only do you have to perform well, you have to make sure another team doesn't perform well. So I mean, you've got to get +10 on your side, -10 on their side. And that's a really, really difficult scenario to try to enforce. Especially, I mean, we've talked about it game after game. I mean, every caster, every Apex group will talk about the RNG factor that comes into play there. And of course, that can be important. That could hit a Team No Way, right? That could hit a Team Vittori in a bad way, not in a good way. So you could be amping yourself up to take out this first place team, and bam, you got a P2020 in a dream, and they landed on you. Good luck.
Well, I would almost, we talked about griefing players, that team in first place. If you know their POI, I'm pretty sure they've landed consistently. So, I mean, we may see a team try to land with them and take them out early. Again, it's going to be, if you don't know where they've been landing, it's a huge gamble. You can't really tell based off of the drop alone. But if you do know that location they've been landing, you might be able to get them early with their pants down while they're looting. It's going to be, again, it would be a 50-50 gamble on whether or not it would play out. But something's going to have to happen if these players are going to dethrone 25 Esports, because they are just playing with purpose.
Absolutely. And I'm seeing something in the kill feed. And for those of you guys that are in the chat that participate in some kind of high tier Apex, it is actually something that you would probably want to employ yourself. And I would actually like to see them enforce kind of consistently across Apex pro and high tier lobbies, just in general, any custom lobbies. I think skins should be entirely randomized or defaulted, as well as player names. You can, of course, anonymize your character, but none of these players have. So if you're 25 Esports, and somebody sees your character, they see, oh, I know Shadowcat plays a Gibraltar. There's a Gibraltar on my left that's downed. I'm thirsting that. I don't even care. I'm intentionally going to grief that team because I'm aware of who it is, what skin they have, what character they're running, and I see in the kill feed that they're downed. So there's I think a little bit of mind game that is able to be played there as well. That's going to be a really tough call for me. but that is something I would like to offer, not a criticism, but a suggestion for some high tier Apex. And I think that it could lead to a little bit more fairer game, and the griefing would need to be more intelligent that way. You need to know and be able to forecast that rather than just seeing a player skin and a player name.
Well, I mean, see, here's the problem is that 25 Esports has been doing such a great job of making sure that they're not the team like taking damage. They're doing a great job of like getting the jump on the other players. They are, I feel like, a very strong third party team right now. They're just playing so well. I feel like they're never the team that you're getting. I mean, especially last game, but you're not really seeing these players getting caught in bad positions. And I think that's just positional awareness from 25 Esports. You know, that they are just not really putting themselves in situations where other players can capitalize on their mistakes. You know, they're playing for high ground. They're pushing wisely. They're playing low ground when they have to. They know when to retreat. They know when to heal. They're just playing so big brain right now that, I mean, these players really do have their work cut out for them because they're just playing hot.
I 100% agree, and I think they're running a relatively normal team comp, if I'm not mistaken. I believe they're running a Seer Octane Gibraltar, so they've kind of got all their bases covered, right? You have your recon character. We didn't give them enough screen time early game to see whether or not they had been able to scan a beacon and try to forecast that zone. We did see quite a few teams rotate out of Harvester through that choke, kind of towards that one side of Lava Siphon, nearer towards Capital City. So it looks like players either just heard gunshots and smelled some blood in the water and decided to rotate there, or a beacon character was able to indicate for some teams that they needed to rotate Lava Siphon's side, because we got pretty far into that with a lot of teams still left alive. I think we were in zone 4 with 11 teams left alive, which for those of you that watch a lot of amateur Apex, that may not be something that you see traditionally, or for those of you that watch a lot of people like rankers and things play in matchmaking, you won't really see that. When you watch, for instance, like a GLL or an EMEA or ALGS, you will see quite a few teams, upwards of 15 potentially, in like zones 4, 5, and 6. And it can get very chaotic very quickly there. And so again, that's a Predator roster that we've got. This roster right here with Salem, Fezzle, and Shadowcat. Obviously, they have spent their time in game, and they are very aware of both meta and map rotation, and kind of everything that really comes into the puzzle piece of Apex, right? We talked about a lot of teams having puzzle pieces, they just didn't know where to put them. It looks like this team both has the pieces, and they know where they go.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know. I don't think we're seeing too much legend variability. Like, I think these players are playing the same legends most games. It did look like we have a Rampart on 25 Esports, and I don't know if we previously had, but it did look like they chose, they had a player switch to Rampart, and I believe Salem went Gibraltar this game. That'll be interesting to see as well.
That is interesting, because I think Shadowcat was going to be our Gibraltar from the previous game there. So I think, and I mean, that's a really difficult one. You see a lot of, we talked about it earlier in the broadcast here. Gibraltar is a necessary evil at this point, right? You've always got some kind of recon character. Bloodhound's not really getting much play. We've seen a couple teams, I think SCP is running Crypto, which is kind of variant. And then Seer is incredibly meta in terms of the recon characters. Pathfinder, unfortunately, is able to scan a beacon and shouldn't really count as a recon character, tragically. Although I am a Pathfinder main, I love him very much. But interesting that some players, you may have been relegated to Gibraltar duty, because like we see that with the TSM, where Reps was a Bloodhound main, and they figured that snipe down on a Bloodhound with a controller was more viable than Reps, for instance, with a mouse and keyboard on Bloodhound as well. So they put Reps on Gibraltar duty, and that's just not fun. Players don't often like playing Gibraltar because you are often the butt end of a lot of gunfire. In the same vein that players don't necessarily like playing Lifeline, because you don't really have an ability outside of benefiting your team when they make a mistake, and you don't really want to have a legend that's entirely focused on your team not doing well, which is like, for instance, why we don't see a Lifeline. The care pack doesn't benefit too much, and then we can see a tap res, which is great, but a tap res is only useful as an ability when your team loses a gunfight. So you don't really want to see that at a high tier. But Gibraltar can fit, of course, a lot of defensive and offensive things. It's just genuinely less enjoyable to play. So I think that switch up on that character may definitely be important. But here's our Crypto. I believe this is going to be Team SCP running that Crypto towards the thermal station, if I'm not mistaken. That is going to be Superior right there on the screen. So interesting that we've seen a couple interesting characters, Nate. We saw Crypto, we see a Bangalore. I mean, have these teams performed at a high tier with those non-meta characters?
I think so. I feel like in Apex, I feel like a lot of the time an individual player can do well with pretty much any character, and I feel like at this point the meta could almost be counterpicking, right? Like we saw some Revenant play, we've seen a Crypto, you know. You can make these characters work. You can make these characters do well. I feel like this is a game where, you know, the meta matters, but it, you know, only like a little bit. I also wanted to note that Gibraltar's got, I think, the biggest hitboxes in the game. He's a very easy character to hit. And I feel like that's another reason why people don't like playing Gibraltar, is he is such a big target. Whereas, you know, you have an Octane who's this tweaky little guy who's hard to hit and he's fast, whereas Gibraltar's more like a big box that you can hit. Just very interesting to think about in terms of legend selection.
So we saw a couple teams clash there, and we've talked about 50-50s for those of you in the chat that aren't familiar with that terminology there. 50-50 just refers to teams landing on top of each other right off of the rip and potentially challenging for a quick, easy bit of kill points early game and denying a squad any opportunity right there. We saw a team land another team on the Climatizer, excuse me. And we saw a little body disrespect because ROO actually had killed that team previously in the match to get second place right there. And we saw a couple Prowler bullets fired at a lot of boxes right there. But we see some scout shots into the back of the Wraith. We see an R301 actually actualizing that kill right there. It's going to be Chief that is going to fall to Snifty. The Syracuse coming in. We have Hyde rotating towards the Crafter in the center of the lava fish here. Now, it does look like there's only two teams. Not really a third party yet. A flyover may indicate something different here, but we do see Snifty with that R301, and again, it's important to note that all these players aren't controllers. So at these medium distance gunfights, these are going to be very quick and very, very damaging very quickly. On the other hand, we don't have that long distance kind of ability that you would see on a mouse and keyboard. Now, we're going to see that L-Star come into play. We talked about that LMG meta, and look at the tracking on Hyde right there on that player as he goes over the edge. That was all headshots, all aim right there. We see Snifty fall, we see Hyde fall as well, giving up a little bit of height right there. Kitten as well, re-kitting some armor. Snifty being graced with a little bit of gold after taking out Sky's Slow. So that is going to be Team Slow. It is going to fall as well. We did see a little redeploy from that geyser right there. They're going to recycle back, and that is a very good amount of kill points and a pretty consistent amount of loot and armor leveling right off of the rip for Team Vittori. Yeah,
so, you know, about the time that I was thinking, like, man, this team needs to get off of that Crafter on Lava Fish. There was just a bunch of bullets coming in. There was not a lot of cover. You know, as soon as I had the thought, they sent and wiped that squad, you know. So just great game sense. They knew they were in a bad spot and had to do something about it, and they certainly did. And, you know, so now they've gotten themselves a couple kill points. They've earned themselves a placement slot, and they get to heal and continue to play this match. Just great map movement. I mean, I'm kind of speechless about it. About the time I had the thought, they were gone. So maybe Caster's Curse. Maybe if I think it'll happen. Who knows?
You know, I don't know that I loved that engagement that we just saw from what I believe was either a Seer, potentially. But there was going to be a player that was kind of stuck getting run down over on the telephone pole on the left-hand side there, that little beacon pole. I don't know if I agree with that engagement. It looks like Devilord was able to take out Stank. It looks like FaZe Devil is going to be taking out Slater. Enox is going to get thirsted by Ren in the kill feed as well. So we have quite a few kills and Nox, excuse me, and a Thirst coming in. I don't believe there was a need for a res either. We do see the great tracking from that Wraith, but unfortunately, I think the shots were going to answer back. That Wraith is now in flesh as well as that Bangalore, and I believe this is a 2-man roster now as opposed to a 3 here. So Devilord is going to be using that double time to try to get out and close some distance there, and we're going to be seeing Devil on the other hand as well try to get a flank and maybe rotate with their teammate there.
Yeah, I'm surprised that player managed to stay alive. You know, they did enough damage that I feel like it would have been a guaranteed knock, and I feel like it was almost a 2v1, but that player was so far away from his teammate that he kind of had to just lay down some covering fire and send to try to get to his teammate. Now they can fight as a coordinated unit, as opposed to these like individual scrappy fights. So just, again, great movement out of these players right now.
Yeah, I'm a little impressed, not a little worried rather, but a little impressed with the Devilord that we've seen over on that truck kind of rotating towards the wide angle of the zone right there. They were able to farm up a lot of damage off of that Octane, and of course trading shots, I mean, you'll do that just naturally. But interestingly enough, Shadowcat is going to be running Rampart. For those of you in the chat that watch some high tier Apex, we have seen Stunny, who's on Team Era, run Rampart in a couple of the GLL tournaments and actually walk away with a victory in a couple of the Era Eternity roster. He occasionally runs Rampart as a gag, and it looks like we might have a little nod to some Stunny here. Rampart is a very underused legend because, like a Caustic or something, that legend is set up for lack of rotation, and since Apex is an obviously rotation-based game, you don't really see Rampart get a lot of play, coupled with the fact that the walls are destructible, similar to like the Caustic Trap, and they don't provide any immediate benefit. Of course, you do get the amped damage and couple that with an L-Star meta, and that can be pretty brutal, but we do not always see that. Let's see if 25 Esports is able to walk away with another consistent amount of kills here, because it looks like the other team is just opting to not even stay in an engagement here, and unfortunately Shadowcat is going to put 90% of that clip directly into the back of his Gibraltar. Fortunately, Gibraltar is armored enough to not take direct damage from a teammate, but I'm sure that didn't make, Shadowcat.
You know, Draggy, I was thinking about it. You know, we talked about how they had such a dominating lead that they pretty much just had to stay alive and play for zone. So I'm actually not surprised. On paper, this makes a lot of sense to me. You have a Gibraltar and a Rampart, so you can kind of hunker down and just like play for placement. And I think that's their strategy now. So hey, as long as we don't get knocked early, we just got to tap it in. Tap it in. We've got the lead. We've got all they have to do is play for placement. And I think that's the strategy for this team right now. I didn't really consider it when I first saw the Rampart, but you know, it's starting to make sense to me. I think this team's strategy right now is to just lay low and try to survive as long as possible. And that will guarantee them their victory.
Absolutely, and I mean, again, you're just kind of furthering your end goal right here. We do see a 14 flesh hit on that player that I believe was tapped by an Arcstar. This is going to be no way. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't look like this player, at least France, has any specific kills here, so I'm not entirely sure if No Way FKB has any kills in the roster. We've only seen 1 or 2, 3 teams die, really 13 or 14 teams in this lobby win in its entirety. But Laser Healthy, this is going to be a team that was able to get a kill onto Slater earlier, so this roster, actually, Laser Healthy, does actually have kill points, as well as a little bit of placement, considering that they broke in top 10. Now, this is an interesting area outside between the Vault and Overlook. This is an area that was just added to the map up there that team is trying to orbit to, because Overlook has been pushed a little bit further into the mountain, and there's a couple more versatile ways to challenge in and through this building here. And we see Wizard shielding, we see his teammate Rainbow Ape, who we've seen play pretty consistently high in a couple of the games. We saw them absolutely destroying with the repeater in game number 4 on the top of Godspot near Lava Fisher, or excuse me, towards Thermal Station. There is an opportunity for a lot of these teams to make or break a game to at least get themselves or solidify a top 3.
You know, I love watching Team No Way play. I don't know what it is about this squad, but I just love watching them move as a unit. I think they're very coordinated as a team. Even the way they rotate just through the map, it feels very controlled to me. I love watching that squad play this game right now. I don't know why. They just are really resonating with me and how they move and how they push.
I 100% agree, and like you had said, they're certainly not an underdog, but it's nice to find a team to give a little nod to. I think No Way emanates a lot of both of our gameplay style and sense. So there was some cheeky stuff with the Gibraltar on a door earlier. I mean, I think some of the game sense is very good, and I like the personality that I can see through the players. But interestingly enough, we do see another Caustic that's going to be on Panthers. That Caustic was on their roster when they won game number 4, if I'm not mistaken. It was game 3 or game number 4 in the choke up next to Thermal Station. So I mean, Caustic is not super widely used anymore, and we actually do hear a crypto drone, which kind of unfortunately for this Caustic roster is not very helpful, because that crypto drone ultimate can actually pop Caustic traps. So as much as you're going to set yourself up for success to block different doorways, if a crypto ult hits, not only are you going to take shield damage through a building and you're going to get stunned, but your traps are immediately all going to be popped right there. Now, whether or not we want Caustic in the game is an entirely another question, but unfortunately that legend is currently available, and although I believe it's counter to Apex, it's definitely not in a position of power, and I do think Caustic may need a small buff.
So my caster senses are tingling, Dragonite. You know, we've seen kind of this ebb and flow, right? We've seen an explosive close quarters game, followed by a poke game, followed by an explosive game, followed by a really non-engaging kind of long-range poking game. And I think this Caustic pick, you know, I think these players are, I think they're trying to hunker down and just play for placement. I think that the strategy has shifted from high kill, high pace, get the points, get the dub. I think these players are more worried about hunkering down and only playing for placement. As we see kind of a very interesting route from this Octane player here, as they're moving through the zone. I think this is actually brilliant, because they're not taking that much storm damage yet. This is only ring 3 now, so where they are going to start to take more damage now, they've already enabled themselves a huge rotation through the circle. They're going to catch these players off guard, because I, as a player, would not expect a player to rotate through the zone. I would expect to be safe. So I just think they just put themselves in a very good position to potentially, you know, make some things happen. But again, we're seeing this. I just said it. We're seeing all these teams want to hunker down and play for positioning. I think it's because we said they have to get first place if anybody wants to dethrone 25 Esports. You have to have first place. So I really do feel that the the mentality of these players has shifted completely to live, don't engage.
I'm really curious about No Way. There was some very, very odd weapon meta that was in there for a second there. We saw pretty much G2's Resulta loadout there. That was a Scout and a Mastiff on a Gibraltar, which is just absolutely wild. You've got 2 single fire weapons there. So, I mean, that's incredibly punishing if you can hit the shots, and definitely not if you don't. That's very punishing for your team, on the other hand, as well as the fact that they had a Kraber. Now, the last time we saw somebody pick up a Kraber, that was Team ROO, and they, I don't believe, hit a single shot with that Kraber. So that may definitely come into play. That's one of those weapon utilities where you see it and you just go, man, this could do so much for me, and then you're hard scoped for 3/4 of a gunfight, you get shot with a shotgun and you die, and you've done literally nothing for your team. So it's definitely a high risk, high reward weapon. That's going to be an interesting one if they're able to hold on to that for late game, or if they choose to hold on to that late game.
You know, it almost feels like holding on to your ultimate for too long, right? Everybody wants to hold off on their player abilities for the perfect moment, but sometimes you just have to use it and create a moment for yourself. So it will be interesting to see if this Kraber makes it to the late game, or if it is even optimized well, as it certainly has the potential to completely swing the game. But like you said, it's hard to hit shots with. Is it gonna? You have to hit your shots, and you also have to put yourself in a position to be able to hit your shots. And it's certainly easier to hit shots when players aren't firing back at you.
Absolutely. I mean, we'd all love if we could win a world championship shooting bots, but unfortunately that isn't going to happen. It looks like we are going to see these players challenging, though, inside Geyser. Now that Caustic make for the gameplay. That is a very messy combo, because that flame grenade will stun you and you will get ticked by gas. So 25 damage will get ticked onto you. I believe that's every 2 seconds, if I'm not mistaken. And then the gas will also tick you for 4 and then stack up to 8 health over a duration of time. So that's incredibly, incredibly important. I really like the idea for them, for the players inside to shoot their own Caustic barrel there intentionally. Deadly Kitten, though, I think actually was ticked by that Arc Star just for a moment there. Someone is going to see your Q. It looks like that is going to be Kitten trying to check for the players on the other side of the base here. Now, this is exactly what we had talked about seeing as these matches got sweatier, Nate. We do see the 25 esports. We see Shadowcat, we see Salem, we see their third player as well. I can't necessarily make out that tag offhand, but they are going to be the Rampart team up on the Overlook, on the beacon building outside the garage building up on the overhang. Now, we're probably going to grab the Sears beacon, but unfortunately, I don't think we're going to be able to make much out of that. Beautiful damage out of the Gibraltar, but no armor swap is going to be able to come in, and that team is going to be completely wiped. That's Snifty able to get the kill onto the GRG roster there. Snifty and Deadly Kitten, a Prowler and an R9 coming into play. But we do see Team Shadowcat, this was the team I was talking about, is going to be able to hold height. And I do believe they have at least 2/3 of their roster. I don't necessarily see Gibraltar, but it does look like Gibraltar's alive and well as well. That's going to be Salem on the left-hand side of your screen, who has been relegated to Gibraltar duty after Shadowcat's incredible performance in the previous matchup here. This is an interesting series of fights here, but honestly, I'm pretty impressed. This is one of the best places you could have a Rampart. I would like to see them set up a couple more walls. We do even see Sheila, which is, again, kind of unorthodox because you have to sit still. So if there's a Kraber to employ, that's definitely going to come into play there. But this is an interesting series of fights for this team, and I do not have enough Rampart experience to decide whether or not this is the right move.
I would say that this is absolutely the right move, at least for this current circle. Their back is to the circle. They can't get flanked, and they have a decent amount of high ground. So what they're doing is, like I said, hunkering down, playing for placement. They don't need to engage. They're in first place. They just have to stay alive, and I would say even a top 3 finish would be wonderful, because you get those placement points. And you know, this is looking kind of bad, but you know, he's a Gibraltar. He'll probably be able to get back with his team. Those type of mistakes could cost later. Fortunately, nobody was able to capitalize on it. I mean, they do look like a terrifying force to be reckoned with, all these walls and high ground. Nobody's going to be able to get them. I love where they're set up. I think it's brilliant.
I would like to see our team No Way be able to get a Kraber headshot on that player who may mantle that Sheila, because of course you end up having to stand still. But we see a bub-on-bub gunfight here. Rainbow Ape, we see him taking flesh damage. That means that Caustic ult is hitting. On the other hand, we see Pew taking shield and health damage. Just means a flame grenade was able to take that player as well as a little bit of Caustic. We see Blue Wizard staying alive right on the outside of that Bangalore smoke, which probably does tell us that Devil was going to be in that gameplay as well at some point. Devil Lord is going to be there. And we do see Viet Chi with the hard scope on the Prowler, narrowly winning that gunfight just barely all shields broken. We do see SPC getting res. We do like that armor drop. That's one of my most favorite things I can have a teammate do in a gunfight here. Instead of making your team heal and spend time healing, you can pick up an armor and then start healing your health to just do double that heal rate. On the other hand, we see Team No Way, and there isn't any use for the Kraber that they had in the back pocket. That's not going to take them top 5. We didn't really see the Kraber make an honorable appearance. I almost worry that, like a caster curse, we've got a little bit of a Kraber curse.
Well, you know, they were not really in a position to be able to use it. They were stuck in a building, you know, so you're taking these pot shots through windows. Whereas if, you know, 25 Esports, yeah, if they had the Kraber, it would just be pretty much game over, I believe, as they have the high ground, they have the angles, they just have so much open terrain to be able to look at. You can't really do much with that Kraber from inside a building, unfortunately. But I gotta say, I'm a Viet Chi fan after today. That Octane play was absolutely incredible. Clutches out the gunfight, stays alive, big brain plays to drop the armor. I'm impressed, I'm a fan. You know, it's probably my favorite Octane of the day.
That was a really good counter, though, because I believe that player that they were fighting, the only Bangalore I've seen in the lobby was Devil Lord. And I believe that since they were in a gunfight with a Bangalore, I mean, bullets were obviously traveling, so Bangalore was going to be able to get her double time when they were fighting in that engagement. But that Octane did stim, so he had that fast lateral movement with the hit scan close range of that Prowler. I mean, that's a deadly mess of a combo. Now, do we see Francis Sinatra and one other teammate? Once again, that duo, their Gibraltar is down, and unfortunately, they're kind of trapped, rocking a hard place, effectively. And that is not a great spot to be. Now, we do see Salem and company have moved downwards into a building here now. I don't know if they're going to be setting up armor swaps. We actually don't see red shields on them, Nate. I think they're employing exactly what you had talked about with having a definitely more setup-oriented than output and damage. But as soon as I say that, Salem goes out, hits an absolute Beamerson on the player up on the overhang. But unfortunately, we don't really know how many meds they have, how many shield backs, kind of what their utility setups are. But the damage is going to come in from Salem and his teammate. That was a very, very aggressive push there. I really like the bubble. We're going to be moving in for the Mastiff shots. In case we do see this high-tier player using the Mastiff as opposed to an Eva in this engagement. That player has got to be running around with negative health at that point. We are going to be able to get that res as that zone closes. There should be 3 full armors for them to swap on, and the other team is engaging outside. This could be another series of wins.
And Salem with the bob and weave. I mean, the movement and timing of those shots, you know, you rip your shot, you back behind cover while you wait for that animation to reload so that you can shoot your second shot with that Mastiff. Just brilliant. I mean, not only hitting the shots, but having the player knowledge to back up and make sure that you don't take that damage instead of just charging in there like a fool with your shotgun and hoping for the best. Beautiful movement, beautiful shots from Salem, which is the Gibraltar player right now on 25 Esports.
Absolutely, and I'd like to make a point again. I'm starting to notice a theme here, Nate. Do you see who our solo blue shield might be right above that team? Who is that?
Oh, I missed it, unfortunately.
It was going to be Francis Sinatra. Once again, our Octane that has been relegated to ratting into 4th place with their Seer dying right beforehand. And I'm seeing a consistent theme here that Gibraltar dies, Seer and Octane make it out on an Octane pad because they're less large of a hitbox, and then Octane is just ratting into position. Now, I'm not entirely sure if that player got picked out. It does look like we have 2 full rosters and that solo Octane. So a team did get melted there. And Francis, I mean, again, the ratting's definitely working. Whether or not they have kill points at this point is yet to be determined here. Now, I would like to see that crypto ult come into play because, unfortunately, they are forced to challenge a building. Now, this is going to be the really tough part here. That is going to be a Bloodhound as well. We did not see a Seer on that scan here. Now, it looks like there's going to be some free points off of Francis Sinatra, but that Kraber that was found on top of the box is going to hit Viet Chi in the back. So we are finally going to get to see that. It looks like Crypto is going to be flying his drone low, and behold, we might see that Crypto ult right here, and it looks like he's taking us right into firing range. He's going to potentially stun that Gibraltar on the roof, and that could be a down for this team. Viet Chi barely staying alive, getting an absolutely good series of shots there. 38 damage into flesh on that player who's going to be on the roof, but all of a sudden, look at this. We are going to be forcing the Gibraltar bubble, so the team is forced to challenge inside relatively quickly after this ultimate. We are not going to be having a bubble so they can challenge him at the door. Look at that. The bubble does come back. They throw the Arc Star in the inside, trying to bait a team into challenging in there. Nothing is going to connect. Both teams have spent their bubbles, and those are now on cooldowns. The flame grenades come into play. No damage on that. Looking for the singular Octane, who is doing a fantastic job of being obnoxious and staying alive. I think this might be some free KP for SPC Gaming.
I mean, this Octane, this solo Octane might be able to eke out a first place. These teams seem pretty occupied with themselves, and he's just kind of patrolling on the backside. I mean, I don't think this squad realizes that there's a solo Octane behind him, and SPC are all cracked. I mean, this is a great opportunity for Francis Sinatra to eke out a first place. This is what, I mean, he's just playing patient. I don't think they know he's there.
I think they're mostly concerned with the opposing team here, and it looks like Hugh, they were able to dethrone, I believe, Viet Chi. Looks like Rainbow Ape and the crew. Your Clapped is going to walk out the victory, not 25 Esports, which was otherwise set up pretty considerably for a series of fights right there with that Rampart. Now, of course, they got quite a considerable amount of kills and placed top 5, but there's a lot of teams that got to get props right there. There was a Kraber shot into Viet Chi. Viet Chi was able to win a different engagement even though he was Krabered down. We saw the Crypto halting the team, the bubble-to-bubble fight. Octane ratting into what I believe might have been second place right there.
Yep.
I mean, there was a lot going on.
You know, Francis Sinatra, I believe at one point had a purple shield, so I believe the reason he had a blue shield so late into the game was not due to lack of damage. I really do believe that player did have a purple shield at one point, so I think it was probably a shield swap. Anyways, we've seen Francis Sinatra kind of sneaking around the map, you know, for pretty much all of these series. We've seen this Octane player kind of lurking after his squad dies, and you know, second place, he got those placement points for his team. He was able to, I believe, 25 Esports took third here. So, I mean, not great for their lead, but they still have such a substantial lead that, I mean, if they had any kills and still got a third place in terms of placement points, they're still probably well within the first place. And I'm sure they're looking comfortable still. But yeah, just great plays. I'm kind of glad we're not seeing one team dominate the whole game. Obviously, 25 Esports is in a dominating lead, but I love that we're not seeing one team win every game. I love that we're not seeing one team win half the games. You know, I like that we get to see different teams kind of have their moment to shine. I think that's really cool. I mean, getting first place in an Apex game in a tournament, I mean, that's a victory in itself. Even if you take, you know, you don't place into any money, you got first place in a tournament in a game. So that has to feel good. I mean, I'm sure it's a big morale boost for the players. But yeah, everybody's playing great. I've been having a lovely time watching this today.
Me too. We got to thank, of course, the lovely Console Gaming League production team. Nate, thank you for being with me. For those of you that are in the chat, guys, that was game number 5. So I do want to note, Nate, technically we could see 25 Esports dominate and win half of the games played today, but they would need to pull one hell of a fight in game number 6 because, guys, we are headed to our final conclusive game. We're going to be game 6 of 6 of the Console Gaming League Summer Series here. Now, again, for those of you that may just be happening by, the top 10 teams in this pool are going to move against the top 10 other teams that are playing in the in Pool B that are off screen, and they are going to play for a cumulative group of 20 on the 28th. For a cash prize. So there is going to be some very important gameplay. Nate and I will be there on the 28th to bring that action to you as well. But we know these players want to get into their 6th game, of course, and we would like to get to do it too. So we will be cutting to our break very shortly here. We will be taking around a 5-minute break there. Players need to get their water, their Monster Energy, their G Fuel, and hopefully calm their nerves because there's a lot of teams right on this orbiting top 5. And we know that that's where they want to be. But guys, we'll be right back with you in just a moment. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back, and we are conclusively back. This is game number 6. This is the game that could make or break or change it all for a couple of these teams here in our tournament here. So one of the things that I am curious to see is if we can see some kind of upset, Nate. I'm not entirely sure. I think 25 Esports has guaranteed themselves a pretty healthy spot at the top of the throne, in my opinion, but I'm not entirely sure. We'll be waiting for some scores to come through here. We have, of course, a lovely production team at the Console Gaming League. And look at that, like a magic, the scoreboard pops back up. So if this is the accurate placements here, Nate, what are you seeing?
I'm just seeing a massive lead from 25 Esports. We kind of saw their strategy shift a little bit. We saw some players switch up their comps, and we saw them kind of just hunkering down and hoping to get like a decent placement, and they did exactly that. They were able to get 3rd place, I believe, in that last game, which secures them some placement points. And really, if anybody's to dethrone them, you need to not only win this last game here, but you need to kill a good percentage of the lobby to get these kill points. So I want to say, instead of gunning for first, I want to say it's more of a battle for 2nd and 3rd, as we do have a bunch of teams that, the top 8 teams all with a good game could skyrocket their way into second or third place. And so No Way and Vittori both have their work cut out for them. They both need to play a good game if they want to place well. Because these other teams are close in points, and they are probably, I mean, they're gunning for you. I feel like at this point, first place is out of the reach of most of the teams. Even if 25 Esports gets knocked first, I think they got it based on points alone. We do have a whole game to watch, so I would love to be proven wrong, but those are just my predictions.
I agree, and it looks like we are going to have production actually update this. So what this was the previous, the previous scoreboard from the match beforehand. So this is what these teams all looked like before they had played game number 5. So we are going to be having production get that scoreboard set up for us right there. But that's a great jumping off point, Nate, because obviously that team had set themselves up for success right off the rip. And then I believe we saw a third or fourth place out of 25 esports that would have catapulted them even further up the list, and we would have needed to see a massive game from any of those other two teams. Now, on the other hand, maybe playing around and playing that rampart, playing that building, if they got a fourth rather than a third, potentially could have changed something if we saw a massive game from a Vittori or something like that. And if we see a second massive game, I mean, we could see an upset. Obviously, for those of you that have been following the games, throughout the entire tournament, 25 Esports had a very, very big showing in the first game. I believe they had a significant showing in game number 3, and then have now had a couple top 5s as well. I think game number 2 was kind of their only lackluster performance. So we've seen pretty consistently incredible stuff from them. And I did get word from production that they are crunching numbers currently. So we should have some numbers for you very quickly. But while we have a moment, of course, I want to thank all of you guys that are in the chat, all of the viewers, all of the folks at Console Gaming League that helped make the summer series possible. Nate, thank you so much. And I want to give a special thanks. I want to give him another thanks when we close out the broadcast. We got to thank Lawrence, who is one of the folks that works for the Console Gaming League and has just been absolutely instrumental in all of the Apex work that Console Gaming League has been able to do, and has provided me the platform and Nate the platform to get to be here for you guys today. So we just have nothing but thanks for the entire broadcast, and a little wink wink and a smile for Mr. Lawrence right there as well. But Nate, headed into game number 6, I want you to give me a prediction here, a completely raw one. Do you think we're going to have the slowest, dullest, campiest game, or is this an ape fest?
I think this is an ape fest. A lot of these teams are just completely out of the running for first, second, third. Your Clapped actually has kind of a good shot at dethroning 25 Esports here. They're not that many points behind. They could have another great game and potentially take it. But some of these teams are just so far away in points from first, second, third. If I'm on that squad, I'm running. I'm full sending. I'm holding forward. I'm just gonna fly at these squads, because why not, right? Like we're 6 games deep. There's no more games after this. If you didn't do it, you're not gonna do it at this point. So I would just be holding forward. Like, let's go. Let's get them. Let's try to put on a show, and maybe hit a clip or something for the stream. 25 Esports. I think it's tough to say. They have to play well this game. They cannot skate by like they have been. Like, I don't know. The lead is not as great as I had thought before the tallies were, added up. So they've got their work cut out for them. They're gonna have to get some kills. They're gonna have to place well if they want to tap in this victory. But also, your Clapped and Vittori, they also both have to place well and get kills if they're going to dethrone the king. So there's a lot of variables.
Absolutely. And we're very shortly headed into our game number 6. I mean, this is that make or break, and that Ape Fest question, I think, is going to be really important. Now, we saw a couple teams 50-50, and we saw at the fight at the Climatizer, I believe ROOT2, one of the teams that is not orbiting this top 10 placings here, tried to land on a team and win a 50-50. And we saw the nifty little EVA shots and the Prowler shots going into the death box after that quick wipe. So a little bit of resentment towards some of the teams here. We may see another grief. A lot of the times in a GLL or an EMEA or an ALGS tournament, you will see teams that are just not performing well. We talked about it earlier in the broadcast. They will land on a team and they will either grief them and get them third partied, or they'll win in an unorthodox or kind of unexpected gunfight, and it can spell certain doom for a first place team. Now, whether or not someone is brave or dumb enough, I'm not sure which of the two words I want to pick for that, to land on 25 Esports. I think you got to be a lot brave and a little dumb to try to fight that challenge. But honestly, sometimes that pigheadedness can make for a beautiful disaster. So I think there is at least an opportunity for 25, especially after that rampart flashiness, to maybe get dethroned here by your Clapped or a Vittori.
Dare I say they goofed off a little too much last game? On paper it looked good. I liked that they were setting up. I knew, I said it. They had to just play for placement and it would tap in their victory. But did they get a lot of kills last game? I don't think they did. Which puts them, they didn't gain points, which just allows everybody else to catch up. It does allow a team like your Clapter Vittori to, if they get first this game, that could spell disaster for 25 esports.
It absolutely could. And I think one of the interesting things too that we did see from that roster was different, that their Gibraltar player rotated. So I think we had originally seen, if I'm not mistaken, it was Cat, that had ended Shadow Cat. And the Gibraltar duty was relegated to another player. And I don't think that necessarily made them perform poorly. I think that they just may have not had consistency across the same legends. I think that may have been a little too cocky too fast. Um, Obviously, that's a Predator roster. They definitely know what they're doing. As I've said before in the broadcast, I mean, I'm relatively high ranked. I'm a Masters player, but those are the players that orbit even higher than I do in skill ranking. And that makes me think that they definitely at least understand what they're doing, because you don't get there without being relatively skilled. So I'm a little curious to see if they can kind of a little more put up and make other people shut up.
They have to. They have to. If they want first place, they have to. They cannot. I mean, again, I liked it on paper. Okay, Rampart, I get it. Like, okay, Rampart, Gibraltar, set up, hunker down, play for placement. But, like, it didn't work last game.
Yeah.
Are they going to try that again, or are they going to go back to the comp that they had been running where they had these 15 kill games? I don't know. I'm not the player. We're going to have to see once the game kicks off and see what legends they decide to choose. And I think based on legend selection alone, it dictates how they're going to play. I think play style is also very dependent on what legends you pick. I don't want to be charging people if I'm a Gibraltar. You want to be charging people if you're an Octane. So, we're gonna have to see. I don't know. Again, I'm kind of rooting for 25 at this point, as they've had some good games, they've had some bad games, but they're still the Kings. It'd be cool to see them take this home, but it would also be cool to see them be upset. Your Clapped is right on their tails, and with one good game, this last game, if they play it well, if they get kills, if they take first place, they will take first place. So I don't know. Maybe somebody will get griefed. We don't know. We're gonna have to call it as we see it.
Exactly. Well, that's why you and I are behind the desk. But before we get into this game number 6, I do definitely want to thank. We've been talking a lot about this top 5. We've talked about Vittori. We've talked about like not KCP, SCP. Excuse me. We've talked about 25 esports pretty considerably. There's a lot of teams that potentially are playing for their first time in an esports tournament, and there's a lot of teams that aren't even in our top 10. And there's something to be said for players that are in the mindset of try and try again. And so I want to say nothing but thanks to these teams that aren't even in our top 10 for sticking around and having the, not the morality necessarily, but the, almost the bandwidth to stay in and continue to participate, because we could see a rage quit. We could see a poor attitude. I mean, the competitive integrity behind all of the teams that showed up and did what they needed to do today. For those of you that are just joining us, we have some teams are missing from the lobby because, unfortunately, as there are in esports, there are rules, and some teams did not finish the enrollment rule set. So whether that was being a part of the Discord, checking in their teams on time, whatever that might be. So again, for those of you that are interested in entering into esports from a competitive perspective, you are going to need to start operating and doing those things. You need to check in with your Discord. You need to get your check-in times. I mean, this is strictly an online tournament. I mean, imagine if you showed up to a LAN and your teammate didn't check you in. I mean, that's a rough go of things. So big thanks to the competitors that did what was required of them to be here today, to help us both put on the show and for their opportunity to get to play. But it looks like we are seeing some teams drop out of the ship here. A lot more rotations towards Thermal than we've seen the last couple times. That's going to be a Lava Siphon for sure. We're going to see a Masters team dropping maybe towards Countdown, maybe Lava Fisher here. But it looks like maybe a backwards rotation. And I think that might be a 50-50 at Lava Fisher or Countdown. We saw a team that looks like they're trying to land on another player.
Yeah, I don't know. We've seen a lot of action happening at Lava Fissure. All 6 games, like Lava Fissure's been a hot spot, and it's kind of surprising to me because if you look geographically, if you land there, you're kind of stuck there. And there's loot there and there's a little bit of cover, but you're effectively trapped. The routes to escape are not optimal and they're not ideal. So it's interesting to see these players like continue to land there. It's gonna be interesting to see. Like, again, it's a little bit of RNG factor here. We're gonna have to. I mean, hope for the best guns that you can get, and hope that you get ammo, and hope that you get some good attachments, and that's really going to help you win these early fights.
Absolutely. And at the top left-hand corner of your screen, you have you have that FKB roster with a beautiful play in place. So not only do we have a fantastic flyover of the team that is going to be a Lava Fisher, but we have the team that is going to be Thermal Station as well on that beautiful play in play is what that's called. And just again, another nod to the Console Gaming League production team. I mean, this has been absolutely nothing but a cinematic masterpiece. So we have to give credit where credit's due. Nate and I often get a lot of pats on the shoulder because we're the voices and the narrators of it, but there is a lot that goes into a full-scale production like this, and it helps to have a team on your back like this. But that's going to be Chifuyu, who is not going to make it through. That's the ROO team, and I believe they landed Climatizer on the NEL Ravens a second time. And I believe actually this time the Ravens made it through rather than Chifuyu.
You know, and that's why they call it a 50-50. You know, it is high risk to be landing on a player. Something I did want to note about 25 Esports is we did see them switch back into the character selection screen. They have gone back to like the traditional kind of Seer, Gibraltar, and Octane. So I think they're taking this last game a lot more seriously. I don't know. I kind of predicted that it would be a little bit faster pace, but, you know, dare I say we might see a crawling early game and an explosive end game.
Backpack here.
I think so. I think half of these teams are very confident. Like I had said, I think there might be some folks entering the esports scene. So I think there may be some players that are not necessarily comfortable taking these early game fights where they might have been earlier. They might have gotten a little overeager and kind of got slapped back to reality a little bit. Curious to see that player not pick up the bruiser on his flatline there, though. That's kind of interesting. Maybe rotating back for that. But again, that flatline in the hands of a capable player is going to be absolutely beautiful. But this is going to be the Trials area. This was the Bloodhound Town takeover that is still present on World's Edge here. You are forced to fight a bunch of crawlers, and once you do, each of the Ravens inside Bloodhound's Trials opens up, and you are able to get some high tier loot right there. We see Snifty going for the ego fight right there, not wasting ammo, and just beating the crawler down. We do see Gibraltar, of course, is going to get that purple shield and should end up with that gold bag in theory, unless there was already a duplicate there, because you do want your medic character to be able to res you with half health and half shields there. So that is going to be important.
Yeah, you know, the trials have been such a, I want to say game-changing mechanic. I kind of enjoy that Apex has thrown a little bit of PvE in there. It's high risk, so you know players like, not only do you have to fight the crawlers, you know, you have to potentially fight other players coming to get that loot, because everybody knows, like, it's pretty much guaranteed good loot. As we saw there, you know, we got purple shields, gold bags, gold helmets we've seen picked up there. I mean, it is a place to go if you want some good loot. I think it's just a lovely mechanic added to the game that, you know, it just allows for more of that RNG factor, more of those exciting moments.
I agree, and a high tier team that was it was Team Liquid previously. I believe it was Hodsik, Alberlele, and their third, who is escaping me right now. Traditionally landed trials when they were still a full roster there. So I mean, you've got a top 5 orbiting NA team landing there. I mean, Europe is of course gonna follow in suit. I mean, there's definitely no reason that a team wouldn't land up there, and if a top 5 team in any of the World Championships are going to be picking a POI as theirs, it's probably got to be good loot. So there's definitely a reason to do that. But a beautiful, insane shots coming out of Franz. I believe that was 68 flesh on that blue shielded player, so they had him broken. It's going to be 2 players with scouts. That's going to be Zypir, and I believe the Octane was a 2x4. We have a 3x on Zypir. And once again, we're running kind of the G2 Resulta loadout here, if I'm not mistaken. That's going to be that Mastiff and the Scout there, which is very punishing for the opposing team, and also very, very dangerous if you miss almost anything. And we've got that beautiful picture-in-picture. We have the first-person POV on the bottom right of your screen, and on the top left, we have that incredible flyover where we see a couple of those players rotating around. So, I mean, again, just I can't thank the production team enough for how capable and how helpful they are making this effectively just a cinematic beauty.
You know, I almost feel like the G7 Scout is more of an early game weapon, and I would love to be proven wrong on this, but I feel like you typically don't see players hold off on those single shot weapons. We talked about it, I don't remember if it was off screen or on screen, but we talked about just like how every weapon in Apex has its place. Single shot weapons have their place, the shotguns have their place, SMGs, all the guns are viable in different ways. That being said, I typically don't see too many G7 Scouts towards the end of the game. I feel like it's great in early game, but I feel like it doesn't necessarily do enough heavy hitting damage once players are shielded a bit more. So it's going to be interesting to see if we still see these scouts towards the end of the game.
Yeah, I mean, it can be overshadowed by other weapons in its relative category, because the Scout was in a weird spot where originally I think it was classed as a sniper, and then it was classed as an assault rifle, which didn't really make any sense to anyone. And then it was reclassified as a marksman weapon. So similar to like the bow and the repeater. They're technically, I think, marksman weapons in terms of what attachments they take. The scout has very quick damage output. I mean, we saw that player get hit for 168 uh, almost immediately with that blue shield out of his 175 that player had. But the scout's a tough one because you can single fire an R301, you can single fire a flatline, you can use other weapons to fit that versatility that also double as other things. Now the flatline's got a big bullet drop, same with the R301's got a little bit more less predictable than the scout, but I agree with you, Nate, in that assessment is that you don't always see a scout employed. I, for instance, as a controller player, would opt for a charge rifle or a sentinel or something like that, as that's a little bit more heavy hitting than a scout. But again, I mean, again, you see consistent rosters in pro teams run the scout, whether almost all the way through the entire game. So there's definitely an option for people to be running it, but it's a little more unorthodox.
We still have 13 squads left in this game 6. This has been kind of a slow. I mean, it's the last game. It's make or break. And so I feel like we're not seeing a whole lot of early combat. And as I'm saying it, we do see Phase Devil is knocked. And there's our favorite Octane.
Yeah, the Octane pad coming in hot as they send up onto the top of the garage building there. It looks like that teams usually do orbit this area if there's a beacon that they can get into, but that's going to be Salem and company. That's going to kill Fusion TV. Our Francis Sinatra, our Octane is going to be going down. All of a sudden, though, Nate, we see 3 teams drop off the radar. Stank is taken out by Devil Lord. Looks like they were able to trade some kills as well. Denox was able to get a kill. Devil Lord got a bleed out as well. So I think 3 teams skirmish. 2 teams, of course, were wiped in that engagement there, and a couple were rewarded some points. Another team, though, no way, is going to be full sending in on top of this team here, and it looks like they're going to try to ape this Gibby, but unfortunately they're not going to make it. That's going to be No Way, who is way in too deep. Now it looks like his Octane is going to fall as well. The Seer is the player who is going to be in flesh. It looks like Gibraltar was there as well, but all of a sudden Fezzle and Shadowcat, our 25 esports, does not make it top 10.
That opens the door for any other squad to win this game. I mean, that's not what you want to have happen if you're 25 esports. Maybe the other players realize who they were up against. I mean, if your team No Way right now, the number 1 squad is dead. This is now your game if you're going to try to win. If you're SPC Gaming, this is now your game. I think now the game is going to open up because that number 1 squad is dead, right? So now everybody, okay, we need these kill points. We got to go fight other squads. We need to place well. But more importantly, we got to get some kills if we're going to try to eke out that first place, because now the door is wide open for Clapped or anybody to just take first place away.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, that kill feed wasn't anonymized, so there's an opportunity to, exactly as you had said, teams are probably aware. There is absolutely no way these teams have not seen each other in this particular engagement right here. Exodia is aware of the team that's on the roof. It looks like we do see a couple players enjoying a little exercise, a little recreational exercise, looking at each other through the top of the glass right there, through the top of the dome. I mean, this is kind of what you're going to see in a lot of higher tier Apex. I mean, this is a little bit more playful, but you're going to see a lot of teams occupy different portions of one specific POI because it is what you need to control. And what each team is banking on is another player or member of another team doing something to take out one of those players. Now it looks like we are going to animate. We do have our Caustic who's showing off with his Andrew Knox's little cup of toxic coffee right there. But I mean, again, this is one of my favorite things that we've seen throughout the tournaments. We did see the other one. We saw Gibraltar Knock Knock. Let's have a nice little talk about the Allfather on the no-name POI close to Thermal, and now we get to see a little bit of personality of the Caustic, so we love to see that. But it looks like that's going to be Neuro, who's doing his best to stay alive, but unfortunately it looks like he is going to fall. Slater, the Gibraltar that was taken out from him 2 previous games ago, is going to get that kill right there, and I am not able to detect whether or not he is actually on a Gibraltar. It doesn't look like it. His character box may be a little bit smaller than we had thought there, and it looks like that might be... I'm thinking that could be a Wraith or a Loba here. And it looks like that is going to be a Wraith. That's going to be one of the champion Wraith skins. So that player has definitely opted for a different character moving forward here. That was a Gibraltar through, I believe, game 5. So they may be going for a meta switch up and picking some aggressive characters rather than defensive ones so they can try to pick some characters for kills.
I mean, but as we're saying it now, I mean, we see them. They have a great angle on the this team over towards the left. Deadly Kitten and Snifty. They're kind of just pinned. They're about to get third partied by this other squad here. As we have got, it looks like this team with Blue Wizard and Rainbow Ape, they're going to move in. So this is opening the door for the Deadly Kitten squad to get third partied. They are not in a good spot right now. There's not a lot of cover, and they do have multiple squads collapsing on them. And you know for certain that player, that Wraith player with the long gun over there, is very aware of all this. Probably about to start ripping some shots.
Absolutely, and I'm not entirely sure if that player is left solo or not. It looked like that Wraith was trying to get out. I think Neuro was the teammate that ended up falling right there. That I think was an Octane trying to juice out of there, and it looks like the Wraith was the one that made it out. But I think exactly as you had said, Nate, we're probably going to see 3 or 4 teams quickly collapse. Deadly Kitten though, down into flesh, absolutely knocked. We're going to see Snifty though able to get the battery. It looks like that player also has the down to bug animation. We did see that player trying to jump, and Gibraltar ult is going to hit inside that seer. We see Rainbow Ape doing his namesake and trying to ape on that player, but unfortunately they're going to trade. The third party comes in, and Rainbow Ape is going to get his kill and then immediately fall. So Blue Wizard is going to be trapped with half health, half shields inside of the base there. The Gibraltar ult not really amounting to too much, but that Gibraltar ult that Gibraltar that over eagerly challenged into that open field right there towards Overlook, I believe got thirsted for trying to force that challenge.
I mean, I respect it. Rainbow Ape didn't have very much flesh. Mostly full shield, but not a lot of flesh. They probably didn't have the meds, and so we've got ults popping. We're stuck at a door. I don't hate the play. Okay, maybe if I send aggressively, maybe not be expected. I think in that situation when all that fire is being laid down and you're weak, I feel like most players are try to escape or turtle or get some cover. And he said, you know what, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna see if I can make something happen. He did get 1 kill, but unfortunately he was taken out as he did send with not a lot of flesh. But I still like the play. I respect the gumption of the play.
I just think that it was a little over eager to challenge that rock and open himself up to that angle, because so we see right here, so this is Slater, and Slater is on a Wraith. That's our answer there. That's the Devil Lord Bangalore that we've seen as well. And it does look like we did get both of our beacons, which is great. But I think that Gibby pushing out a little bit too far right there, because he had cover behind that rock, and before he peeked the Wraith to try to get that thirst right there, he had 3/4 flesh, entire gold armor. And so pushing that opened him. He got 1 kill and gave his back. His team had already killed the other 2 players in that roster, the Devil Lord and the Denox that's on this roster here. He could have just let the other team kill this Wraith, and they would have been rewarded the same amount of kills, because this Wraith obviously made it out. So his life was effectively forfeit right there.
That is true, but
it's a tough call.
Yeah, it is a very tough call, especially in the moment. I don't know. We're going to have to see. I mean, it didn't play out. I'm hoping that this Wraith is able to get those beacons delivered. I think that would really shake up this last game. You will have to scramble. I mean, you hear a revive beacon, and you know everybody's going to be looking, trying to get these players before they're able to get any gear. But I really think that could shake up this last game if those 2 players are delivered to beacon and revive, and if they're able to get shields and guns and health. I mean, it's kind of like a do-over. You get to try again as a full squad, and I think that's very powerful, especially in this kind of game. We have a bunch of players collapsing on this squad here. We got 2 bubbles deployed. Looks like they're going in for the close-range squab. Quickly taken out.
And it looks like we're going to see that roster. So Viet, Chi, and Rise were both, I believe, using Prowlers in that specific instance. And it looks like Rise is the kill leader. I didn't get to see if that was a 3 or a 5 out of Rise, but regardless, a significant amount of kills considering the players left in the lobby. So that's very important here. And we do have, it looks like some players on the outside of the vault on the right-hand side. We see a couple of the players, I believe that's Blue Wizard up towards the left, kind of outside on the beacon building there. But we are going to have, again, our beautiful flyovers courtesy of the CGL production team here. But we see quite a few players, as you had said, Nate, skirmishing kind of on the outside of Lava Siphon, rotating in towards Geyser. We've got a 2-man, what looks to be a 2-man inside of the house, and it looks like Caustic taking some pretty significant flesh damage. He may end up being left behind. He is narrowly going to make it into this house. He's going to go for that hit, and that Seer is going to stop the heal. So if that door gets popped and 1 grenade comes in, they could actually be rewarded for a kill. That's that very frustrating, honestly, from a player perspective, ability of Seer.
Yeah, unfortunately, they have nowhere to go with that storm. They cannot take any of that damage to try to get out through the circle. Like, their only option is out through the door. So if I'm these players, I'm probably trying to make a break for it. We did have Team No Way kind of patrolling around the edge of the circle up on the high ground. Blue Wizard over here on your clap, they're the 2nd place team right now, so he's probably just going to be playing for positioning for the rest of the game. If I'm on your clap, I'm trying to hide, I'm trying to live, I'm trying to get at least 2nd place. Team No Way's looking really good though. I like where they're at in this in this current circle. They're all pretty kitted, pretty full health. This is a scary opportunity to be in, because I feel like at this point everybody's got shields, everybody's got heals, everybody's got guns, and they're kitted. So I really think we're not going to see a whole lot of engaging until this circle closes and these players are literally forced to engage.
I'm curious to look at the roster that has Blue Wizard on it, that I believe is actually orbiting closer to Overlook, because there's a team sitting in the vault door wisely with a Gibraltar that's kind of using their heals. Look at that. We've got Blue Wizard, and I believe maybe one teammate with Wizard. Wizard maybe is solo here. Wizard's going to have to rotate through that vault directly into the back of this team. So he's either going to need to be Team Ninja, or he's going to need to get really lucky off of some output damage from another team. And it looks like Rise maybe smelling blood in the water. I'd love to see if we can get a POV on Rise trying to take this 1v1, because if Wizard is able to get this knockdown, he can probably get a thirst here. And the issue is that they're going to be challenging directly into zone as well. So if that player gets knocked and we can see Blue Wizard rotate into zone, Blue can probably get one singular kill and maybe set a team up to not be able to make any placement points.
I mean, that comes with the griefing, right? It's definitely like a strategy. Like, I feel like as a player, I would almost be trying to force that at this point, just to like make sure they don't get placement. We've got the storm starting to close. It looks like players are starting to take some pretty significant chunk damage from this storm. They're gonna have to move quickly if they want to make it to the last circle here. We've got a Bangalore all coming down there. Stuff is blowing up. I mean, this is complete chaos right now. It looks like they are able to get away from the ult. We've got some fire being shot down by Poca.
It looks like Potsy was able to, it unfortunately was knocked there. It looks like Exodia was able to get a kill on the Leon. The Bangalore ult, Nate, I have spent the entire tournament talking about how I don't necessarily love Bangalore being run in this comp. That was a very good use of that aerial utility.
It's scary. I feel like the thing about Bangalore ult is it's not even just a damage thing. It's a zoning tool. Like, you have to force players to leave where they are, because they will take substantial damage if they don't. So, I mean, even if you don't get the damage, you are zoning players, right? It looks like
Blue made it out.
Incredible.
I think that may be our man right there. I think that might be Blue trapped inside of that door. He took a little bit of storm damage to back down. It looks like he actually might be okay with heals too. I mean, Blue's honestly in a pretty great spot, because it looks like that edge of the vault is going to be the zone here. I mean, wing and a prayer, Nate, but this is that thing. Like, if you gamble, it could absolutely do something. Look at him. He's trapped inside. Okay, so this player has set himself up. I believe he may end up dying in here if the door is not there, but he has at least bought time, so he's waiting out the other teams. So just hoping that he's in a completely defensible position, and he's not necessarily going to get kills or points, but he's hoping to probably get one singular more placement or whatever it might be.
I mean, if he's lucky with Circle, anything is possible. I mean, your clap was second place, so he needs to place first or second if they're going to make this happen. I don't know how many kills their team had managed to eke out this game, but I mean, one player in a dream is really what is happening here. But at least he's safe right now. You know, he doesn't have to worry about getting killed. And there he goes. Unfortunate.
I wanted the Cinderella story, Nate.
Yeah, I did as well, but the ring does take out Blue Wizard. Team Your Clap is now fully dead. 4 squads remaining. We have Team No Way kind of eking out. Franz is trying to get his shields back. He manages to get the heal off. Let's see what they do here.
I'm really impressed by the gall for that team to absolutely ape via that bubble here. And it doesn't look like either team really exchanged much damage. We don't see any knocks in the kill feed here. A lot of arc stars going off. We see repeated flashbangs from unfortunate stuff from different seers. It looks like an arc star is going to stun when we see 2 or 3 players dead. The Caustic ult is going to come in, and that is going to be so instrumental in bursting some of those down players. We see, Franz absolutely bleeding out. And it looks like an errant shot from the scout. There's that scout. We see Leggett, on Team Slow, is going to be taking that player out. They may go for the last second beacon. I actually agree with this play, because that's going to force teams into engagements here and can drop the Octane directly back on top of his box. Now, that bubble's on that, I believe, probably on a 25-second cooldown here, but this is not as insane of a play as it looks, and I completely agree with the idea.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's just so fortunate that they were able to not only get the beacon, but also there was a reboot beacon right there. So they got the card and managed to get the res. And like you said, his armor's all right there. And, you know, he's going to be able to get all the stuff he just had. Pretty much that death was, you know, you get a complete do-over. But in the moment, in the final 4, you get that complete do-over. That is just absolutely game-changing.
think Caustic may end up making a far larger appearance than some would expect in a specific instance, but interesting that we saw Chief heal his flesh, but not his shield, because that indicates to me that they probably just literally don't have heals left for this. We see the Wraith trying to stay alive under the base as well, and that AoE on the Gibraltar making obviously big damage here. In case in point, we see the white meds coming out, but no shields across anyone on this entire roster. Skies was the last player that looked like had any bit of shields, and I believe it was 25. Now we're going to see the Seer ult prone. That Caustic ult could be big, though, because if you can force this team inside and they can hold this door, they can literally force this team to bleed out against the zone. But it doesn't look like Caustic is going to make it to get into that engagement. We see No Way with another 3-man wipe. Rise, the kill leader, is going to be taken out as well. This could definitely be a comeback for No Way, and this could be, in theory, with a first-place finish, enough damage and enough kills for them to walk away with big points.
What a nightmare. You've got Storm closing on your back. You've got Caustic gassing in your health. I mean, I cannot think of a worse thing to have happen in the top 4. 3 squads remaining now as Team No Way seems to be in the best position. They've got Circle, they've got damage, they've got shields, they've got great damage.
No Way has a flatline and flagrant disregard for other players' lives. We are going to see the Scout, Nate. The Scout, our late game question.
Curse.
The Caster's Curse, baby, comes into play. No Way with a victory from behind. Now, whether or not that's going to be enough to take out 25 Esports is going to be up to our analysts. We can only speculate until the stats are in. But what a hell of a showing from No Way. I mean, the namesake is perfect. No Way. Absolutely no way.
I don't know what it is about them, but I've loved watching them all day, and it's very, very, very cool for me. I'm getting chills up my spine right now talking about it. Like, I'm not even kidding. Watching them eke out that last game. I mean, we saw them win a game. We saw them win 2 games. So we've had multiple, I think that's 2 squads each win 2 games. I mean, that's incredible. But talk about clutch. Talk about clutch from Team No Way. They did not seem to be panicked once that entire game. I mean, they seemed to be full on shields, full on health, and just outputting massive amounts of damage. Very well played from Team No Way for that last game. I cannot believe it.
That game concluded so close to a true ALGS. I'm just so impressed because what we saw there was Seer was annoying, right? We saw Syracuse constantly stopping heals, the zone taking you, and you were just finally finishing your med kit, and then you died to zone. We saw Caustic doing direct health damage. I mean, we saw so many different impactful things that were in there. We're going to have some great replays up on the screen when we do some analysis as well, courtesy, of course, of the CGL production team that we've been so proud of throughout this entire tournament. But again, I mean, look at this. For instance, in that POV, we saw the Gibraltar ult hit right when Octane had the battery. That player flinched and clicked the sprint. He clicked in his left stick, and it took the battery off because he chose to. The character effectively thought they were going to sprint rather than go for a heal there. So, I mean, again, there were so many different plays and different factors. Legends abilities came into play. That Wraith wisely was trying to go in and out of the portal, trying to portal back and forth just to buy a little bit of extra time and maybe something unorthodox. But I just kind of top to bottom, Nate. That was as true of an ALGS finish as I could hope for. 10 teams in the final zone, one guy slumming it out in the back of in the vault, just trying to make a health pack in a dream. I mean, all of that top to bottom was just as S-tier action as I could hope for.
Yeah, it's definitely been a great day. I mean, all of these games have been pretty action-packed. Even I feel like the slow games, it's slow at first, but there's nuance to the pacing, right? There's thought processes that you can see through player body language that, I mean, in real time, you can see these events unfolding, and then boom, we've got great action. We've got great shots being hit. We've got brilliant player ults. I mean, like, there were so many big brain plays across the board today from all of the teams. Like, and man, let me just say, like, even the last place team, like, in every competitive environment, there's going to be a first place and there's going to be a last place. Somebody has to get it. But all of the teams, like, really showed up today. And, even if you're last place, like, you played, you tried. And that's part of the, like, competitive grind is, like, it's learning. You got to get out there. You got to compete. So you had a bad event, whatever. Everybody goes 0-2 once, so I just want to give a props to the teams, who maybe didn't get so much screen time. You can't have an event without teams, and you need players to have teams. So just like, good on you guys for coming out and competing and doing your best and having a good, clean, competitive game.
I agree with that in its entirety. Every single thing you said, I completely agree with. I'm just I'm impressed, right? Because we started this with, in theory, 20 teams. 7 teams didn't do their due diligence, check in, and go through the appropriate process. So unfortunately, they didn't get to play today. There were a lot of competitors today that I'm willing to bet got their toes wet for the first time in a tournament environment, and that's the worst part. I have been champion. I've won a lot of money playing games, Nate. I have been first rounded probably the same amount of times. Okay?
Yeah.
And everybody has to get their feet wet. I remember my first tournament ever was a Halo 3 tournament at Game Crazy. Halo 2 tournament at Game Crazy. Got absolutely stomped on. Turned around, played a Halo 3 tournament a month later. Stomped on everybody who was there. I got my nerves out of the way, got my first loss, and that's sometimes just what you need to do. So for the competitors that stuck it out and didn't necessarily have the game of their lives, thank you guys for playing today.
Oh,
But look at that, Nate.
ah,
4 points almost. Tell
ah.
me what you see on the leaderboard, my friend.
So 25 Esports is in first place with 66 points. They had 2 outstanding games that propelled them to this tally, 66 points. I feel like most of their points came from those 2 games where they played super hot. Team No Way played consistent all day, falling second place by only 4 points. And if you look, I mean, they had more placement points. So Team No Way outplaced 25
Mhm.
Esports, but I mean, 25 Esports had 2 15-kill games as a squad. And I just think they had so much momentum riding on those 2 games that, you know, it was kind of hard. We had Team Yorklapt with 55 points, again, outplacing 25 Esports, but there's the kills right there. So 25 Esports, you know, they were just slaying. They were getting the kills. And we talked about, you know, the kill points are nice, but may not really matter. In this instance, they did matter.
Mhm.
As 25 Esports wins on kill points. The kill points were the determining factor here. I mean, hats off to you guys, man. That's a lot of kills. 35 kills as a squad. That's something to be proud of. 2 first place finishes today, also something to be proud of. But Team No Way, man, consistent all day. My heart goes out to Team No Way. Also want to give a shout out to Vittori, who played wonderfully all day, and SPC Gaming, who we saw take a game today. So we had a bunch of people playing very well all day. Everybody across the board, man, did wonderfully.
Absolutely. And for those of you that, of course, have been sticking through the broadcast, rather, those players that were on the left hand side of the screen, that top 10 is the group of players that is going to be stacking up against the group B that was playing off screen today. So they're going to meet another 10 competitors that played in the exact same format today. And those guys are going to be playing on the 28th. And Nate and I will be there to bring you that action as well. But congratulations. That's 25 Esports. We saw so many different teams. I was worried about a 25 throw when we saw them only get just placement points in, I believe that was game number 5 with Rampart there, maybe begin game number 4. But regardless, I mean, we saw really consistent stuff out of them, and I was worried that Ego was going to take over right there. They're going to channel a little bit of their inner Era Stunny and run that Rampart right there. And love that man, but that is definitely an Ego attack. But it looked like, Nate, you looked like you were jumping in to say something there. What's your final thought?
Just on paper, I liked the Rampart play. On paper, it looks good. Like, we just gotta hunker down, play defensive, get for the placement. But I don't think they got very many points that game. I don't think they really got kills because they were just kind of turtling, narrowly taking first place. So that game almost did cost them the tournament. But on paper, I'll say that the thought was there. You know, maybe not the best thing in terms of the meta, but I like where the head was at. You know, creative solution to the problem. Like, oh, what if we just turtle? You know, so I don't know. I think it was fun. It's fun to see that stuff in a tournament. It didn't work out for him that round, but it was still
No,
fun to see.
it definitely did not. But guys, 6 for 6. We made it through 6 games today. And the viewers that stuck with us, you made it through 6 games today. There was a group of players that made it through all the 6 games today. This has been a phenomenal opportunity, both for myself. I'm going to thank on behalf of Nate as well, Mr. Tenacious Nacho, Nate Dowg. And we have to give a couple thanks. I thanked a couple different people throughout the broadcast, but we have to give a thanks to Nips, the man behind the entire console gaming league. Let alone the summer series. We have to give a thanks to Lawrence, who has worked very closely with me, our production team, and so on, and different groups of people to help get this brought to you. I mean, of course, we have to thank the production team behind the Console Gaming League as well. I mean, we saw so many beautiful flyovers towards games 4, 5, and 6. We had the play-in plays. I mean, you could not ask for a higher tier production. Every single person involved from the casters here, we have to thank you from the bottom of our heart. Congratulations to the teams that placed today, and good luck on the 28th. Nate and I will be there to meet you as well. Nate, do you have anything in closing?
I just want to say thank you to the CGO for having me. This has been a wonderful time for me. I love any opportunity I get to cast with my man Dragonite. Just the players, man, thank you for competing. Thank you for giving me something to talk about. I had a great time watching today. I loved the gameplay. You know, a smooth ran event. Just thank you for everything. I mean, those flyovers were chef kiss. They were great, and they made like commentating this like very easy and fun. So again, thank you to production, thank you to CGL, thank you for having me, thank you to the viewers who stuck with us, and just thank you. That's it.
Well, guys, on behalf of the caster booth and behalf of Console Gaming League for our summer series, I'm Dragonite. I was joined by Nate Dogg, Tenacious Nacho. That is going to be our final thank you. We're going to have some beautiful replays to send you all off with. And make sure to stick with us. We're going to be back on the 28th. So check the Console Gaming League socials. Their Twitter handle is Console Gaming LG. And you can go ahead and follow that to see what time the tournament is going to start, where you can watch the broadcast and other notable players and folks that are related to the broadcast. Because, of course, we have to give some thumbs up to those folks as well. And before we go, finally, let's see if I picked the right shoulder. We have a new GG series of merch. I got it right. Third time's the charm. Console Gaming League. If you would like to support the broadcast that you saw today, there is an opportunity to get. They have hoodies, they have joggers. I mean, you kind of name anything in esports apparel. They've got it handled. They've got two different kinds. I chose the mint. It's a very calm. They have a very exciting style. I'm not even sure what to call it. It reminds me of hyperwave, and it's very trendy in my opinion. It's very streetwear. And so that's going to be a great opportunity for the folks in the chat to go ahead and support the CGL. But guys, on behalf of the entire production team, the Console Gaming League, and both of the casters, I'm Dragonite. I was joined by Nate, and we are signing off. We'll see you on the 28th.